All right, well, it's 7 o'clock and we'll call the meeting to order. It's a good sign when we're on time for our first one back after summer. So welcome back, everyone. I trust you had a good summer, enjoyed the beautiful weather, but we're back to the grind here in September. Before we get started with our meeting agenda, I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce a few new members of the team. There are some new faces in the room. So welcome to Troy McCulloch, who is our new CAO. He's been with us since mid-August, so what, 3 weeks in?
Something like that. Bit of a blur.
And Shannon Murray is with us this evening as well. Shannon assumed the role of our recreation manager in mid-July. And Stephen Marcellus is here with us in the gallery. Stephen is our new emergency management coordinator for EMO. So thank you very much for joining the team, and we're looking forward to having you and working with you. On a more somber note, I was like to indulge, if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'd like to take a moment of silence for Queen Elizabeth's passing after 70 years of reign. Just wanted to express our profound sadness that our Queen Elizabeth has passed. She was an icon in many ways, blazing trails in a lifetime of over 70 years of public service and standing firm in a tide of male-dominated politics. So our flags, you'll have noticed, are flying at half-mast to show that our hearts are with the royal family as they come to terms with the loss of their mother and grandmother, a loved one to many whose presence will be greatly missed. So I'll ask you for a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we do have a couple of, I think, changes to the agenda in mind. Deputy Warden Sampson and I were speaking earlier today, and we would like to add housing Richmond County properties, including the West Richmond Education Center, to our agenda under items added. So everyone's good with that. So the second change, I believe, Councillor Sampson, you have a request for an item to be stricken from the agenda?
Yeah, the item from me, it was just, I think it was just added in error. It was just some information for you to add.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that's the Point Michaud garbage bins and letter to DNR.
Yeah. Okay,
thank you. All right, so with those changes, could I ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'd like to add the...
oh, yes, sorry.
I know it's late, but we could add an acknowledgement.
So we do have community acknowledgements, I think, at the end, item 10. So will it fit under there, Councillor?
Sure.
Yeah, we didn't list them specifically to give us some flexibility, just like you're requesting now. So, yeah, great. Any other items added or removed? Okay, great. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so I think Deputy Warden won that race.
It's all
And
good.
Councillor Sean Sampson, would you like to second it, please?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. I confess, I'm feeling a little rusty this evening. All right, bear with us. So the next item is the review of the minutes from June 13th. Those were circulated in the agenda package. If no one has noted any errors or omissions, I'll ask for a motion to approve, please.
Did you do it for committee of the whole or just council?
No, we do for both usually.
Roll call?
No,
No.
He's
no,
asking about roll
no, just for regular. Yeah, yeah. So could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Could I have a second?
second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. So the next item on our agenda is the appeal of variance issued for property PID 75209-106. And I believe John Bain is with us in the gallery this evening. John, if you'd like to come up, because I believe there's some changes you wanted to report. Thank you for joining us, and welcome back.
Thank you. It's always good to be in Richmond County. So the variance that was before council this evening was appealed by one of the neighbors because of a concern about a right-of-way they have on the edge of the property. They thought that the variance would impact on their right-of-way. So I was in discussion with the appellant, and the variance does not impact their right-of-way. And so they withdrew their appeal of the variance.
Okay.
But I had notified residents in the appeal area that the appeal was happening tonight, and it was late last week when we found out that he was withdrawing. So that's why I'm here regardless. But my recommendation to council is just to, the appeal's being rescinded, so there's really not a role for council. I think we just acknowledge that it was on the agenda, and we can issue permits tomorrow,
Okay, great.
if that's okay with council.
Thank you for the update on that, John. Councillors, do you have any questions for Mr. Bain on that?
Yeah, I guess, I have a couple, I watched as the, and I don't know, maybe John, you can correct me, but I watched as that project grew all summer long. I was under the understanding that you weren't permitted to infill property off the lake, however, they continue to infill over the summer to create the property, maybe back to the existing size, I'm not sure. However, I do know they probably added 50 to 60 feet. My only concern with this is that, looking at this variance, it looks like we're allowing them to go from what we have in our bylaws of 50 feet high water mark to 25, and then we're also allowing them to decrease the distance from the road. My concern is that if we're setting a precedent, why would we not just change the bylaw to accommodate that as opposed to everybody on an individual basis?
That's a valid point, Councillor. This is the third variance of this type that we've approved in those properties that are tight to the water and the road. It is typical when you do have variances continuing that you take a look at the bylaw and make those kind of changes. The bylaw actually permits this kind of a development in the mixed-use zone, just a little down the way. So in the C1 zone, there's a special provision that does allow for this type of development to happen without the variance.
And I guess I understand that. I guess, again, my concern would be, are we setting a precedent, and if so, are we doing it on a one-on-one basis? And again, not taking anything from your knowledge of where and who can build, but once we set that precedent to allow one person, then what happens when the guy next door, because I'm not sure if you noticed, but there is red tape on the property right next to it, which to me is going to indicate that's the next lot that's going to be look to be bumped out. Again, with the Erosion Act and everything that's coming up into play, we're not even going with the property. I guess my concern is that the property doesn't even meet the standard size required in its full capacity, and people that have property that does meet the standard size are having issues, so.
Maybe this is something we want to refer back to Policy and Bylaw Committee for review, since we've had a number of variances. Would you,
Or the Planning Advisory Committee.
sorry, Planning Advisory
Yeah.
Committee, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the actual-
And I think Councillor Dignan has a valid point there. When you're talking about coastal erosion, the Coastal Erosion Act, how does this project affect someone who has property already, who's being told that erosion might be a factor in the future, when this project is starting from scratch and you're filling in to develop this project, right? So yeah, I think we gotta be careful here and like you say, maybe refer to public advisory and because I'm sure that people are gonna have questions, right, when it comes to coastal erosion and how it affects them,
Yeah,
right?
so the Coastal Protection Act is still something the province is looking at, and it's not being proclaimed. It's been proclaimed, but it hasn't been, the regulations aren't in place yet. so.
Right, yeah.
So is it, and maybe I read this wrong, is it not, actually, is it not part of the act or part of the, let's see, I'll bring it right up, so that I don't misspeak. Hold on. Yeah. So I looked up at, you know, solid breakwaters can be significant impact on coastal environment. Then it just goes on to, for infilling. So for the province, there's actually a law that states that the only way you can actually infill is through, I guess, getting the proper permits. I can tell you, I looked today, and again, I don't know, it's not my job, so I'm not going to overstep my bounds, but I know there was no permit given from the Department of Transportation. And to be honest, I don't know that there was one given from the Department of Natural Resources. I know the Department of Environment has no play in this matter because it's salt water, so it goes to natural resources. But again, I'm just gonna read, the infilling that's on the Nova Scotia site, and it says, an application to infill may be considered if the project is likely to result in a public benefit. And so, to me, this is a personal benefit, not a public benefit. And again, we're looking at putting a house on a piece of property now that is sitting on the water. So, again, I don't know where council sits on this or where we stand. I don't know if it's too
Well,
late. I would just hate to see next week, somebody come back and look for the same thing, and I guess we turn around and say no, or Mr. Bain, you turn around and say no, that.
Well, I think council has made its decision on this in approving it in the first place, right? So, at this point, there was an approval,
I don't think council
or no,
approved.
sorry, but
Yeah,
the
staff.
approval was in place. But at this point, the appeal's been withdrawn. And so there's not a decision for us here this evening, but to your point, I think maybe we should refer to the PAC because we want to be consistent in our approach here. I think that's what you're getting at, is it, Councillor?
It is,
Yeah.
I just, again, I caution us at this stage, or I caution John, I guess at
Yeah.
this stage.
Yeah.
It's not my place to caution
Right.
him, however, it does fall back on council.
Yeah,
So we're gonna see a house built on a lot that's sitting on the water,
Yeah.
less than 25 feet away from the high water mark, and less than the required distance from the road. Again, I see it 16 feet, but I would double check because I think the Highway 4 is actually 50 feet from the center line that Department of Transportation requires, not the 26 feet.
okay,
So-
great. So would we be in agreement to refer this back to Planning Advisory Committee? Russ? I'm telling you.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great, Troy, if you could note that would be great. Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions for John at this stage? Okay. Mr. Bain, thank you very much for being with
Thank
us this
you.
evening.
Sure, most welcome.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is presentations. We have several this evening. The first is a strategic plan refresh update, and I believe we have some folks joining us by Zoom for this presentation. So we'll just give staff a minute to cue that up.
Bear with us.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So, good evening, James and David. I don't know if they can hear me, can they? Maybe you guys could welcome them and get them to get started, if that's okay, because the mic is on that end. Or
James, can you hear us? Check your audio.
wow. I think it's because if you're connected, it's going to go through the speakers here. Do the speakers need to be turned on?
Try that one. Hi, James, can you hear us?
Sadly, we can't
Okay.
hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your audio is going through the laptop, or the speakers instead of through the laptop.
Dennis, can you hear us?
No, I don't think he can. He's got his headphones on. What if you is that an audio in the back? No?
That is audio in the back.
Why don't you yank that out? I bet you it'll come through the.
Is this your guys' audio?
No, I don't think.
I think you're on cable from there to everyone.
James, can you guys hear us? David? Not well.
Okay.
I think it's coming from there.
Where are we hearing it? The-
Yeah,
the
so
phone?
that's why I'm thinking we'll get them to call in
Okay.
for the audio.
Ask them to dial into that phone number. The video's coming through.
Yeah.
Phone in there, 902-226-9885. And then we probably have to answer it.
I don't know if they can go call in though. or-
They can't. It'll just have to be one of them. You might want to just.
They can chat to one another.
Yeah, that's right.
They might be able to blend the phone numbers on their own phones.
Mm-hmm.
They could.
Call us, call someone else
Join
and
call.
merge them.
Yeah, with their cell phones.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, Mel.
Huh?
That's exactly what I was gonna
Is
suggest.
that what you were gonna say? I thought so.
She beat you to it?
Yeah, she always beats me to everything.
I don't mean to.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You can hear us?
I can hear who's speaking now.
Okay. Where do you want to try?
Yeah. Hi, James. Can you hear me okay from here?
I can, and maybe to make life easier, I'm going to add David to the call so he can get the audio.
That sounds great. So if you can do the presentation visually on Zoom and phone for the voice, that'd be great.
That would be perfect. Okay, just going to add David just a second.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Exactly.
Right.
Bumps in the road.
Yeah. So maybe just for the members of the public who are watching or who are with us here in the gallery this evening, we are really pleased to be bringing forward a draft strategic plan from our consultants, who you'll hear from shortly. They're going to just take a run
I think
through
I've
and
merged the calls.
do a presentation. So, you guys are all set to go if you're ready.
Perfect. I just need share screen enabled at your end.
Okay. just on the participants list, like if you,
Just making goals.
yeah. Make co-host, there you go. There you go. That should,
We need to mute ourselves on the computer too, Shannon.
yeah, that should work for you now, James?
It does.
Yes, great.
I would like to thank council, the warden, councilors, administration for the opportunity to be speaking to the group this evening. For the record, I'm James Lear, a consultant with Preferred Choice Development Strategist, and also on the line with me is David. David, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record.
Hi there, David Patterson with Fowler Baldwin Mitchell calling you from Halifax.
So guys, before you get started, just a heads up, I think there might be a little bit of feedback on David's. I don't know if you're using speakerphone, David, so when you're not speaking, you might want to just mute.
Okay.
Is it better?
How's that?
Great.
Okay. So thank you very much. And can everyone see the slide?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So we're just going to go through a few highlights of the strategic plan refresh this evening. And I'm going to start off with updated demographics based on the 2021 census. And I think as council and administration's aware, modest population change in the municipality to 8,914 as of the 2021 census count. But the main thing that I always indicate is when one takes a look at it, you can see the age distribution has more of an older population compared to younger folks. And similarly on the graphic on the right-hand side is an overlay for the province of Nova Scotia. And again, you can see the differences in percentage of population by age being predominantly older in Richmond County than the province. And just something that I wanted to, again, highlight as part of the summary part of the strategic plan refresh is understanding the demographics of the community. So the strategic plan refreshment process included taking a look at secondary information, a community survey that was open for, I think, about 3 months, community and stakeholder engagement that occurred with a number of virtual stakeholder meetings in March and April, with some additional meetings in May, as well as some public meetings that occurred in June in person, and in addition to that, some planning meetings with council to guide the strategic plan refresh process. The refresh included the development of the refresh strategic plan, that stakeholder engagement, participation in key consultations, the information review, a strategic SWOT analysis, and of course a delivered refresh copy of the strategic plan that was provided at the end of August to the municipality. Some of the themes that were observed in engaging the community included economic growth, tourism activity, recreation and leisure services, quality of life, infrastructure and transportation, the importance of community engagement and involvement, municipal leadership, and access to services. And it's these themes that help form part of the refresh of the strategic plan. In total, 124 people completed the online survey, 11 people attended 3 in-person events, 70 people attended 3 virtual events, and there were some emails received and 5 stakeholder meetings held with about 20 participants as part of the planning process. The strategic planning format covers off a mission statement, goals, objectives, strategies, and an action plan under an overlying vision for the community. So in discussions with council and based on the information had and the in-person consultations, the following has been presented as a proposed new revised vision for the strategic plan refresh, and that is a destination rich in history with a future of growth. The updated mission statement is to provide efficient and effective municipal services and actively engaging with the business community, residents, and partners to facilitate growth and a high quality of life. There were 4 goals that were prepared as part of the strategic plan refresh. 1, to grow the economy. 2, to invest in infrastructure. 3, to nurture quality of life. 4, to lead and engage stakeholders. And under each one of those goals, a number of objectives were identified. So under the Grow the Economy goal, objectives include advanced development in industrial parks, facilitate business and investment attraction, support business retention and growth, advocate for tourism development to build up 12-month tourism experiences, develop a branding strategy and champion promotion of area destinations. Under the Invest in Infrastructure goal, objectives were implement long-term capital planning for sound fiscal management, continue to deliver and protect quality water and sewer services and resources, build up funding for facilities renewal, develop and improve accessible sidewalks, pathways, and corridors, champion broadband and cell service expansion. Under the Nurture Quality of Life goal, objectives include utilize an accessibility and age-friendly approach to all services, projects, and initiatives. Support and build and enhance spaces for health and wellness. Encourage housing development across the housing continuum. Address climate change across the county. Ensuring a welcoming experience that values equity, diversity, and inclusion. Under the Lead and Engage Stakeholders goal, objectives were adopt and implement a communications plan and policy, and continue to inform and involve citizens and stakeholders in a variety of ways. Support and connect citizens and volunteer groups. Seek and sustain collaborations with organizations in a variety of areas to pursue shared goals. Foster strong and consistent relationships with other local governments, such as Potawatomi First Nation and St. Peter's Village Commission. Find and leverage funding supports in areas including infrastructure renewal, roads, trails, sustainability, housing, accessibility, and tourism. And from that, a number of indicators were identified that could be helpful in the process of advancing the plan and looking at its progress. And from there, the adopted refreshed strategic plan will achieve success by having a strong framework that is implemented, monitored, reported, reviewed, adjusted, and renewed going forward. And I know that that's a short overview of the strategic plan refresh. The broader document has been provided to Council and Administration, and a draft version has been reviewed by Council and Administration in advance of finalization. Certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have about the process. And once again, thanks to Council and the Administration for all their support to work through the refresh process.
Thank you, James and David. Thank you both for being with us this evening. Do councillors have any questions for the consultant team on this matter? No? I just, you're good. Quiet bunch here this evening. But that's good. It means hopefully means it's a job well done.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you both for your efforts on this initiative. I know it took a little longer than we thought, but I think it was time well spent and will help us set a new direction for sure. So thank you both for being with us too this evening to do this presentation and for weathering our technical difficulties at the beginning. So, all right.
Thank you, Warden. Thank you, Council. Best wishes, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Definitely.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thanks for the reception back in June too, to show me around the area.
Absolutely.
That was great.
Anyone with Loch Lomond ties is welcome anytime, right? So
All
come
right.
back soon.
You might see me around.
All right. So I think for this item, at this stage, councillors would probably be looking for a motion to approve the strategic plan. And we may just need someone to kind of hang up that again. So that we can take that forward and ratify it at our September regular council meeting at the end of the month, so. Would anybody be willing to make the motion to approve the strategic plan as presented?
I'll make the motion to
Okay,
approve it as presented.
thank you. Thank you, Councillor Digdon. We're all a little rusty this evening. I love it. Could I have a seconder on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. That's exciting. All right, big piece of work in a small period of time being presented.
Big piece of work to
Yeah,
start
exactly.
shortly after this as well.
That's right, now the real work
That's the
begins.
easy stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So next up, we have presentation from Destination Cape Breton regarding the Cape Breton Island Marketing Levy and proposed amendment to legislation. So Terry is with us, the CEO for Destination Cape Breton. So I'll ask you to come up, have a seat, introduce yourself, and we'll get started. Over to you. Yeah,
Put this on slideshow mode, right?
I think so, yeah.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me here again, and thanks for adding me so quickly to the agenda. That was greatly appreciated. I'm Terry Smith, CEO of Destination Cape Breton. I'm also joined by one of our board members and your Richmond County representative, Cindy Walker of Pepperell Place Inn and Chocolatey. Wonderful chocolates. If you haven't checked them out, I'd give it a big plug. So I'm here in a bit of a different capacity than I normally am in coming to speak to you. Normally it's providing a report on the year that was and talking about the year to come. But this is a special issue. So it's going to be talking about the Cape Breton Island Marketing Levy, the status, and a proposed amendment that we're looking at. So I will jump right in. So just background for all of you. The Cape Breton Island Marketing Levy was legislated by the province in 2011 with the Cape Breton Island Marketing Levy Act. And then once passed by the province, each of the 5 municipalities on the island implemented municipal bylaws. The bylaws are almost identical, so it's consistent how it's applied across the island. Right now, there's a 2% rate charged on fixed roof accommodation stays at properties with 10 rooms or more, longer term stays of 30 days or more, medical stays, students in dorms, they're all exempt from being charged the levy. And the Act states that the funds must be used to promote Cape Breton Island as a tourism destination. So at the time that was put in place, there was a memorandum of understanding that was established with all 5 municipalities that designated our organization, Destination Cape Breton, as the official agency to promote the island. So how it works basically is our accommodation operators that have 10 rooms or more, they charge the levy to their guests, they collect the funds, remit it to their respective municipalities, and then the municipalities provide the funds to us, and we use it to promote the island. So pretty simple. So I wanted to get into a little bit about results, and this is going back, so the levy the act was passed in 2011. The first year of collection and usage of the funds was 2012. And I've just taken this up to 2019, the last year before the pandemic, because the pandemic kind of threw everything for a loop in terms of the levy. Those revenues were really depressed. Hopefully, they're coming back this year. But in everything that we do, almost everything that we do to promote the island, we're trying to drive people to our website, visit capebreton.com, where they can learn about things to do, places to stay, and all the reasons to visit the island. And so traffic to that website is an indicator of the progress of that marketing investment. So for the first 3 years, we had the levy in place. Because the budget was modest at the time, it was decided to only market within the Maritimes. So you can see in the area shaded by blue from 2012 to 2014, there's modest traffic being generated coming to the website. In 2015, we made the decision to go into Ontario and Quebec. 2016, we added Northeast US. And from that period on, you see a steady incline. And that, beyond 2019, the traffic has continued to grow. Last year, we hit a record level, over 1 million sessions on our website. This year, we've actually already surpassed all of last year. So we're going to have a really big year in terms of traffic to the site. So that's in terms of the efforts of the marketing to get people to our website, but is that converting them to visits? So looking at that, we can look at room nights sold on the island as one of our major indicators. Same sort of thing in the blue, you can see in the 3 years where we were marketing to the Maritimes only, there's kind of steady, gradual increases. 2015, we go into Ontario and Quebec, another increase there, and then it really took a good incline over the next couple of years. And so the green bar, that's licensed accommodations. They're licensed by the province. But then also there's down the bottom, there's the blue bars, which is short-term rentals, shared economy. So that's Airbnb and Vrbo units, mainly Airbnb. So if you take a look at 2018 and 2019, it looks like the licensed accommodations declined in those years, but what was really happening is that more people were booking Airbnbs and they were getting an increasingly larger share of the accommodation market. So if you combine the two, there's a little bit of duplication, not very much, but if you combine the two, there would be increases in those years as well. And just over that period, 2012 to 2019, just to give you a comparison, when we measure, using 2011 as a baseline, we measure the incremental room nights sold, the growth relative to where we were in 2011. You can see that our growth more than doubled the province overall. So a positive sign. The levy has been working, and we have an estimate that basically for every dollar collected by the levy, there's about $27 generated in visitor spending. So a good ROI. But we have a situation. So our current situation, when the levy was formed at the time, we had Enterprise Cape Breton Corporation here on the island, and ECBC, as we called them, they at the time formed an agreement with Destination Cape Breton whereby they would match the levy funds up to $640,000 a year. That was the cap. So that agreement continued and was in place. ECBC folded. Their role was taken over by ACOA on the island. ACOA honored that agreement for a few years, but in 2019 they signaled to us that they were going to have to start reducing the amount of funding, and it's basically because we had a bit of a sweetheart deal, I guess you could call it, because Enterprise Cape Breton was able to give us a better deal than most other destinations would get throughout Atlantic Canada. So they said, we've got to start reducing that. So this year, we're at $440,000 is their level of funding. Next year, it's going to be $340,000, and then the year after that, they've told us it will level off at $300,000 a year. So a $340,000 hit, if you look at that, and that hit will be every year as we go forward. And at the same time, as I showed you on the room nights sold chart, the Airbnb and Vrbo rentals, they grew from 7% of registered room nights sold to last year they were 30%. And they're at record levels this year as well, so it may even be higher again this year. And the thing is, most of them are smaller accommodations, with very few exceptions, they are not collecting the levy. So those factors, and then of course the pandemic, as I mentioned, have driven the levy revenues down, what we have to work with. So since ACOA told us in 2019 that we were going to have to deal with these cuts, we looked at, well, what can we do to mitigate the impact of those cuts? So we moved our office into a former VIC building, a Visitor Information Center building, which we own the building and we have a long-term lease on the land, but basically it eliminated our rent costs. Gave us a little more overhead, but it was still a net positive for us. We had 11 full-time staff in 2019. We're at 9 currently. 2 are on parental leave right now, so we didn't really replace them with anyone, so we're dealing with even less right now. We took some steps to achieve organizational efficiencies using technology to work smarter and more collaboratively, and we've continually honed and tweaked the marketing program to continue to deliver strong results despite the shrinking budget. So as I mentioned, this year, the traffic is at record levels. So right now we're at the point where we feel we've made all the cuts that we can make. As I showed, the marketing levy helped us have this decade of growth really, but we're heading for a cliff because now we still have to reduce our budget by $100,000 next year, which is significant for us, and then another $40,000 the year after, and the only place to cut is in what we have for destination marketing. So that means that could impact the impact we make from promoting the destination. So in 2021, we took a look at this. We consulted. We hired a consultancy called Floor 13. They're a group that specializes in tourism and works with organizations like ours across Canada. And we asked them to develop a revenue stream report for us. Basically, look at our revenue streams, compare them to other organizations like us across the country, see is there anywhere where we could learn from others and make changes. They basically came back to us and said they recommended increasing the marketing levy rate. And this is just a line from the recommendation. Even without the current income stream challenge faced by Destination Cape Breton, there's a multitude of benchmark evidence to suggest that the current 2% levy places the region at a competitive disadvantage to many of its competitor destinations. And here's what they mean by that. So this is Atlantic Canada, and this just shows you where the levies are at as you move around the region. So we're at 2%. Halifax is also at 2%. In PEI, Summerside and Charlottetown have a 3% levy. In New Brunswick, Moncton, Fredericton, St. John, 3.5%. There's a small one in Gros Morne in Newfoundland at 3%. And then the largest in the region is St. John's at 4%. And as of 2019, the average levy in Canada was 3.43%. So for us and Halifax, we are the lowest in the region, and we are also amongst the lowest in the country in terms of the levy rate. So in the spring, we conducted a series of meetings with accommodation operators around the island, 12 sessions, and then Zoom as well. And we presented them with 3 options. The first one was increasing the levy rate to 3%. Halifax is also taking steps to move their rate to 3%, so we're moving in lockstep with them. We estimate this would add about $450,000 to our budget at 2019 levels, but it does not address the increasing share of the market that Airbnb and Vrbo are getting. So it's 450 right now that we estimate, but if they continue to get increasing marketing share, well, that could be less. Option 2 was to apply the levy to all fixed roof operators. So, and there's a question of fairness in some communities. Port Hood, for example, is one community where House Troyberg is one accommodation, has 7 rooms just up the street. Hillcrest Hall, 11 rooms. Hillcrest Hall has to charge the levy, and the other option, just down the street, a competitor, doesn't. And so there's a question of fairness there. And the smaller operators do benefit from all the destination marketing that happens as well. So, many of the larger operators feel that everybody should be paying. So we estimate this would add, we don't have a lot of great information on the Airbnb, so this is a rough estimate of about 250 to 350,000. So it might replace what we're losing from Macoa. It might fall a little bit short of that, but you could also say that it doesn't address that competitive disadvantage that the consultants mentioned, because other jurisdictions are 3% or more, and so we're kind of leaving money on the table. And then the third option was basically a combination of the two. So the feedback from those operators that we consulted with, and by the way, we provided a summary report from those consultations that is available on our website. Basically, I'm summarizing it for you now, but we're giving operators another opportunity to provide input if they weren't able to attend those sessions. So we're making sure that we do the due diligence that they feel that they've had opportunity to provide feedback. But the vast majority supported option 3, increasing the levy to rate to 3%, as long as all fixed roof accommodations collect, including Airbnb and Vrbo. They had recommended not to rush into this, to look at a January 1st, 2024 start date. Some operators said they're already quoting 2023 rates, so that only makes sense. They also suggested that sometimes, to spend all of the marketing, the money on marketing may not be the best approach, because you can do all the great marketing in the world, but if people come here and the operators don't have the workforce to deal with all of those visitors, that's an issue. So they suggested having some flexibility to address other issues other than marketing, like the workforce shortage. And many felt that Airbnb and Vrbo, this is kind of separate from the levy issue, but many voiced their concerns that they need to be more regulated to ensure a more level playing field and quality for guests, and suggested starting the process now. And as Warden Mumberket will recall, she and I co-hosted a number of sessions around the island a couple of years ago, and people are still echoing those same concerns that they did a couple of years ago, for sure. So our proposed amendment is to do what they say, increase the rate to 3%. What we'd suggest is that the province, instead of putting a limit on the rate, that they give the municipalities, the 5 municipalities, the power to make future rate changes. Now they might say that, well, that's within a range or whatever, but just so that we don't have to go back to the province to change legislation if there's a need for a rate change in the future. We're proposing to remove the 10 or more rooms threshold and adopt the Tourism Registration Act definition of fixed roof accommodations, and that would include Airbnb and Vrbo. We'd also propose that the amendment allow for funding to be used for destination management, as well as marketing activities such as addressing workforce issues, and as the operator suggested, a start date of January 1st, 2024. And with that, happy to answer any questions, but if council is in agreement, it would be wonderful to have a motion at some point. Doesn't have to happen right now. As I mentioned, we're going back to operators to get, other operators to get feedback. So if you'd prefer to wait until we get that feedback, that is fine as well. But we're hoping that if we do go forward with a request to amend the act, that's something that could be done in the fall sitting of the legislature.
This fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. Very informative and certainly ringing very true with me. Councillors, do you have questions for Terry on this?
Yeah, just the bar graph, Terry, when it came to Maritimes only versus Ontario, Quebec, do you have a breakdown of the people versus, like the Maritimes versus who's on your side in Ontario, northeastern US? Is there a breakdown there of?
Yeah.
Because it has
on the website?
increased, yeah.
Yeah, well, like, it's been a little bit up and down, but this year Ontario is by far the number one market that we're seeing. Nova Scotia would be second. Nova Scotia is down a little bit from last year, but last year we weren't marketing to Ontario and Quebec, or not as much. So Nova Scotia, we placed more resources behind Ontario and Quebec, and then Quebec is third. Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of you can look at it from the cities. So the Greater Toronto area, Halifax, and the Greater Montreal area are the three biggest markets in terms of where our visitors come from.
Any other questions, councillors?
Yeah, I got one, Terry. I guess you commented that many felt that the Airbnb be more regulated. I would assume that the many people you were talking about would be the owners of the fixed roof accommodations of the 10 or more rooms.
Yes, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the Airbnb owners don't feel that they should fall under that category.
It-
And I
yeah.
only say that because I do know some Airbnb owners on the island, and one of the difference that I guess you could bring back for the fixed roof accommodations would be property assessments. I can tell you that people who live in their own home and have it as an Airbnb pay full value taxes for the property assessment, whereas a fixed room accommodation, such as a motel or whatever, doesn't. So I don't know that, I am definitely on board with the increase of the 3%. However, I would need a little more information on the breakdown between the Airbnb and the Verbo versus the fixed roof.
Yeah. So there were some operators of Airbnb that were in our sessions, and basically the ones who were in our sessions anyway. Now, setting aside the regulations, and like I said, that's kind of a separate issue, but it's one that's persisting. And but those that were there, they basically said, we totally agree. Like we have no problem paying what everybody else is paying. So I can't say if we don't have the contact information for all the Airbnb operators. So it was only a portion of them, but from those I have talked to, yeah, they basically said that they don't see an issue. And some jurisdictions in the country, it's mainly in Ontario, but they've also set it up so that they have an agreement with Airbnb where Airbnb actually charges the guest through the platform and then provides it to the municipality directly. That's something that we could work towards, and then they don't even see it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I just have a quick
Yeah.
one. So obviously you have or will be presenting to the 5 municipalities. I guess my question is, where are you in the circuit of sort of presenting this information to the other municipalities?
You're first.
Ah.
I've got Inverness on Thursday, Victoria County next Monday, and still waiting on CBRM in Port Hawkesbury. Well, Port Hawkesbury is not till October, but CBRM, I'm just waiting for them to confirm, but yeah, over the next month or so,
Yeah.
all the municipalities will be talked to.
So given that this is something that's legislated by the province, obviously what you're looking for is motions that support your
Yes.
recommendation to the province to change the legislation. Okay. So I think we have a little bit of time to now that it's sort of, you've done your presentation, my feeling is, and that, you know, the public would be able to view it and understand it. Folks who maybe weren't in those working groups, if they're gonna reach out, they're gonna reach out to us in the next little bit, and we can maybe make a decision from there. If you haven't presented to everybody, it's not like you're waiting on our motion to move towards the
No,
province,
no,
right?
and there's a process whereby, once it goes through the legislature,
Yeah.
that anybody who wants to speak to
Right.
it has that opportunity as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And I think anything we would decide here this evening would have to be taken to our regular council meeting anyways at
course,
the end of the month, right? So,
Sure.
so maybe we'll take this period of time to kind of think about it. I wouldn't mind, Terry, if you could flip back a slide, just, yeah, so, would it be okay if we kind of shared some of this information publicly? You know, like, I mean, on our
Absolutely.
website to help you get
Yeah.
the word out?
Yep.
And that way, you know, we can say this is what's being proposed, and that way we will hear from folks if they have concerns. I mean, I know years ago when I was sort of Airbnb-ing, before there was such a thing as Airbnb, that's how long ago it was, you know, I would have relished, I think, an opportunity to be part of a destination marketing campaign, you know, like, and I think that's the upside of this kind of thing, that you can feature locations with these types of, you know, marketing opportunities, in a way that I never would have been able to afford on my own, right? So it's like
Yeah.
kind of being part of the larger collective, right? So it's exciting in that way. But certainly, yeah, I'm sure lots of questions from the public as well will need to be dealt with. Okay, so if that's okay with you, we'll maybe do some circulating of the information through our media channels. Councillor Brent Sampson, did you have a question?
More or less the same thing,
Yeah.
you know, that you were saying. I think, I understand where you're coming from. I know where I'm leaning on this, but I think it'd be prudent on our part to reach out to any of the operators within our districts and get a little bit of feedback ourselves before we make a final decision on it.
Yeah. And just so you know, we did have, I think all of the operators that currently collect the levy were all included in our sessions, and a few of the smaller ones that don't. So it was actually, in terms of per capita, Richmond County was well represented in the sessions that we had, so,
Great, thank you.
okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Terry. And thanks to Cindy for coming in this evening as well. Appreciate you representing us on the Destination Cape Breton Board. All right. So next item on our agenda is a presentation from Raising the Villages, and I believe we have Mr. Mustard. Mr. Jim Mustard is with us this evening.
Chewing it up. That's why they brought you in your tech. You're doing it. Thanks, council, staff, for this opportunity. I was a counselor for 10 years, so I kind of know how valuable time is. And I am not going to simplify your life, but I'm going to add a challenge to it. And I really appreciate, at the municipal level, we deal with everything, from sewer and water to housing to this idea of we've got to create, you know, a fair playing field for accommodations, and on it goes. So I'm going to focus on number 3.5 on the strategic plan.
You were taking notes.
So lucky I was here, and it was quality of life. And it says, what is the quality of life for our youngest citizens is my question. For our youngest citizens being the infants, so prenatal through to kind of childcare age, even including childcare if you don't have it in your community. And then the question was, what are welcoming experiences that value equity, diversity, and inclusion? So I'm going to walk us through. And my call to action is just, one, we become aware of the importance of citizenship from birth. What have we lost traditionally in our small communities? What do you think that is? The number one thing we've lost is the social connections. Our grandparents used to be in our homes, a lot of them. We used to have large extended families. We used to have a real connection outside our doors to each other. And then, so besides those social connections, we've lost services in our communities. So this is a call to action for rural communities, and I live in Inverness County. I live in Marguerite. I'm a total volunteer at this, but it's my passion because I've been a foster parent for 25 years, and I've seen inequity. I've seen inequity. I don't think those parents wanted it to end like that, but the community supports weren't there the same. And then my father's just was a nut bar about early childhood, even though my mother was the pro. But he got on it from a medical standpoint and said, if we turn this around, we're going to save money and have more competent societies. And right now we're facing a challenge of our lifetime. So, Raising the Villages, Maoyomi Jit Mijiwajik translates to Gathering for Our Children. And then, just standing up here, I'm going to show you Margaret's doll. So Margaret just passed away Saturday morning. And it's pretty amazing because her story, just, once again, I can give a land acknowledgement, but here's my little story. That she was taken from home at 4. And she didn't come home in the summers. And the first thing they took was her doll at Shuby. So she was cleaning she told me I was cleaning the sort of, the bottom of the floorboards. And so she took the rags and ripped them up and went and got a piece of goldenrod and made the arms for it. And so that's her doll. Well, she made this one. She gave it to me. And she is a story of how you destroy communities. And yet she came back and heroically put it back together. So I'm just honoring that story. You can see Margaret's doll on Vimeo if you want to see that video. It's pretty amazing. And then on top of that, if you want to go to the wake Thursday and Friday, that's in Wagoma, that would be incredible too. And the funeral Saturday. So that's my offering my piece of recognition of the importance of where we live. So Raising the Villages was initiated in 2016 by a group of people, including a lot of municipal leadership. Amanda was there, I remember her previous role. And we just talked about what is this call to action. The province said, let's create more welcoming communities and find out what parents need. Now, they didn't put any money behind it, but we as a municipality put quite a bit in Inverness County. And since then, we've formed a co-op in 2021, and we're moving forward with a co-op, which is including doctors. We have 2 family doctors. We have staff from Strait Regional Center for Education, early childhood educators, Wild McCook, Jordan's principal, Cape Breton Partnership, Public Health. We got a lot of partners that just say, let's all put some time and effort into this. We have 1 part-time position, which is communications and network development, who you've dealt with, Shannon, Amanda. And she works hard for the little bit of money we get and support the development of this as the call to action goes forward. So Raising the Villages' vision is, can we not imagine a center here in Arishak, and 1 in Lewisdale, and 1 in St. Peter's, and 1 in Bolidec, wherever else you need them. But they're open 5 days a week, and they're coordinated. And so our young families don't have to go looking for each other, for one. And then if they need services, can't we bring them to our community instead of traveling to Antigonish or up to the regional? Can we not have pediatricians come to our community? Mental health workers come to our community? Can we not ask for that? And isn't it time, when you think of how much time and energy is put out there in the world, and build those social connections so young families can find each other, and it's called inclusive, right? Diversity. Don't miss out on your elders. Don't miss out on the place that becomes a human library. Can we not imagine that? 4 centers here. So that's what the objectives are all about. Let's get to it. Because here in Western Cape Breton, 30% of our children, it's higher in Richmond County, it was 40% last time they did the EDI. 4 out of 10 children are in the lowest percentile for their social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development in this county. And I'm not blaming parents. They're doing the best they can, but there's not much available, is there? There may be a play group, maybe over there in St. Peter's for 2 hours, on 1 day a week or something. And I'm not blaming those organizations. Everyone's working with their resources they have. And then we have child poverty rates across the island, 26%. That's 1 in 4 children. Can we push the food security rate up there so that those youngest citizens make sure they have enough food every Friday? Can't we do that? Are we not rich enough for that? I have been a part of food banks and everything else, but I'd rather see a center where it's Food Fridays, and if you need some, take it home. Away you go. So what do we envision? So this is what it looks like right now. It's kind of patchwork of silos. Everybody's pushing something out there, program here, program there. What if municipalities and raising the villages took this kind of by and said, okay, St. Peter's, we're going to sit down. Okay, Arishat, let's sit down and see what you got for assets there. What's working here right now? Now, do we have a space where we can co-locate a space big enough for all the families that are going to the school here? From 0 to like 3? Do you have that? And include our elders? So let's think about it. Let's co-locate it. Let's put it in some place. It's welcoming. The door's open, and it feels like everybody should feel like they deserve to be in there. And that way we can say to the province, here's what we're doing for you, province. Is it your job as councillors to do this? No, but we become champions for this because this is what the heck we need. You looked at your population demographics on there. It's not much different for most of rural Nova Scotia right now. Turning it around means we get better housing. We've got opportunities for jobs up to yin-yang right now. And we include this place where they can connect right from the beginning. So a young family feels like they're part of a community, especially when the first child lands, because the whole game changes. I know I'm going to take exactly 15 minutes. You guys can look at these slides later. So it starts prenatal and goes right through, includes our seniors and elders. But you can see everything on there from nutrition, lactation consultants, play groups, speech and language. Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it to me. I don't have to go look for you if I'm a speech and language person. And the reason we're doing this, these welcome and coordinated spaces will reduce childhood poverty at the source. You can reduce mental health, crime, low literacy, addictions, unemployability. I'm going to show you some evidence of that. You can connect to the transit. I was a chair of Straight Area Transit for 5 years. I spent a lot of time in this council, you know, explaining the importance of transit, and we've committed to it. So is the province, right? But who took the lead? The municipality. Richmond County was the first place to actually put the money in for that transit. 30,000, you know, I remember that. So this is the way leadership works. You guys know all about it. Strengthen culture and language. Do you want the Acadian culture to strengthen? Where's our elders to give language and the resources to our youngest citizens and the voices and the spaces? Provide universal access to support and services, as I said, and your business readiness. You're ready for business because our young families feel supported and loved and they belong. Hey, I might look at starting a job here. Hey, I might do business. So why the earlier? So here's the evidence. Been so robust for 20 years. Boom. Everything happens almost before childcare in terms of the major milestones in the brain's development. Almost everything happens before childcare. What does that mean? Do you have to be an expert parent to do this? No. Doesn't mean that. It means that these basic things, loneliness, tired, scared, change diaper, needs to be held, hot and cold, hungry, are drivers of a baby's crying, and the responsiveness of the society wire the brain for the health outcomes for a lifetime. In neglect, just neglect, not abuse, I'm not beating anyone up. I just can't deal with you right now, baby, because I'm alone. Causes untoward adverse health effects for a lifetime. Depression, malnutrition, cardiovascular disease, memory loss, immune system, drug and alcohol addiction, ADHD, asthma and allergies. It's been proven. These studies are 20 years old. And I'm saying this because my dad taught me. And I was like, you're full of it, Dad. I know how to be a parent. I can be a foster parent. I can change these kids' lives. And I couldn't. Because what happened long before we became foster parents had already set the pathways. A lot of the young people we dealt with had really they get stressed out right away. And when they got to adolescence, addictions kicked in. And you have to have a whole community support them. And they can't stand on their own very well. But it just taught me, let's get upstream. Let's support that young mother. I'm probably running out of time. So this is two things. It's a friggin' investment, guys. $1 in is $8 out. That's not me making that up. That is the Nobel economist from Chicago who said, I studied this thing, and if you put $1 into early childhood, you're going to get 8 back. I thought I was getting a return on investment like that. And then here's what the Center for Addictions and Mental Health out of Ontario said. Across Canada, it's $51 billion is the cost for mental health outcomes that are adverse. That's $1.4 billion blown every year in Nova Scotia. Lost workers. stresses on the system. Just in this county alone, it'd be 11.4 million. Every year, it's costing us. And I just went to a funeral for a veteran, and I work with veterans. 36-year-old, 2 children, committed suicide. I thought we were there for him. But once again, it's not blame game. It's just saying we got to do better for rural communities to advocate for what we need. So I'm just saying, if you had a whole system for every elementary school district, had one of these centers in it, it's only $45 to $60 million. What did the finance minister say he had in surplus? 300 or 400 million. And I'm not saying you do it all at once. You build it slowly and build an evidence base for this, but we need to get going. So what if I'm working on with this team is creating center up in Bay St. Lawrence all the way down to Ayrshire on the map there. It includes Polydec. And I'm not even prescribing that. I'm just saying we are working with Bay St. Lawrence now. Their leadership understands it. They've got a room dedicated for Reason Villages. Now they need the operating funds. For the 2 staff, the heat, the lights, the insurance, come on. You got a whole center ready to go. But they're trying to do everything there, from the clothing store to this, to this, to this. Let's get this together. I'm working with Raising the Villages, working with the Atlantic Summer Institute. They've got federal funding. We're going to be holding a workshop in November, a conference in Port Hawkesbury around infant, child, and youth mental health. What's working and what more we can do. What more we can do is a couple of these models that might support the outcomes, especially if we all get together on this. So that's what we're working on. That's for 2022. We have Shannon working with Lisa Berthier on creating a network, right? And it's a network to really support the people out there doing things and learn. And then we also have Dorothy Bernard, who's a pediatrician, sitting on the board. But this fall workshop is big, and it's going to be followed up by winter workshops that I'd like to take them right into St. Peter's and right into Ayrshire and right into Lewisdale and every other, whatever other communities you feel are important to have this conversation around. So that by next spring, we're sitting with the province and saying, here's what we need for a policy. Time's up.
Wow, you're right on, like
Was I?
to the minute. Anyway, and obviously an important message, Jim, so thank you for being here. Counselors, do you have any questions for Jim?
Just
No?
great,
Okay.
great presentation. Great presentation.
Sorry if I'm a bit
No,
like totally kind of off the wall emotional
No way.
about this, but
Not
it's
at all.
important.
Not at all.
It is emotional.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank you for bringing that message in, but I also want to thank you for bringing Margaret's message in.
Yeah.
She was a special person, and I was fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with her and provide her with a Heart of the Community Award on behalf of the Chamber a couple of years
Beautiful.
back. And if there was anybody that was ever Heart of the Community, it was definitely her. So
Yeah.
terrible loss for all of us on the island, specifically though for Wegaba and our First Nations communities. So
Yeah, so I stopped in her house on the way over here, said to Rosie, her daughter who runs Maui Dom, and her son Gweezy, I said, okay, I've got to go, instead of playing Heart Stroke Bingo tonight, which I did with Margaret the last 6 months, I said,
You
I'm
came
going to
to us.
Richmond County, because Margaret's telling me to get off my butt.
well, thank you, Jim. And please just keep us in the loop about what's going on.
Yeah, I'm gonna send once again, a funding proposal in. You guys were very generous last year at $2,500, and just consider it our seed funding investment to get us to the next stage here.
Yeah.
And that way, I think we're on the edge of something important as we see the fallout of COVID just is amplified.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
All
Thank
the
you
best,
so much.
everyone.
Safe
Really
travels back.
appreciate
very
the
much.
opportunity.
Great presentation.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Okay, so on to new business, or do we need to take a minute? I feel like that was a lot. Are we all okay to continue? All right, 3 presentations in a row and lots going on. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the J Road classification list for 2023, 2024. So some information has been circulated from staff, and in reviewing it, it was popping into my mind and discussing with the CAO is that we probably need to ask staff to do some kind of an assessment of what should and shouldn't be on that list. But I'd really like to hear from counselors as to your thoughts on it at this point. If you think referring to staff for assessment would be a good idea, or if you have some other ideas, I'd love to hear them, so. Councilors?
Yeah, I would only think that probably not too much has changed since last year.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like, we had some really
Yeah.
good places that needed it.
Yeah.
There was only one that came through for approval from the province, but I mean, there's nothing we can do about that, but, unless somebody feels different about one of them at this point, that anything's changed.
Yeah, no, I agree with Councillor Sampson. I'm sure that our target list is pretty much gonna be the same as it was last year, right? So
Right.
there's not gonna be too many surprises here, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so Troy, I don't know, would you like to make any comments on that from your discussions with staff, or?
Sure, we, with some new people on the team as well, wanna go out and get our eyes in the county. So we're gonna be doing some road assessment while we're doing that as well, even though they're not our roads. We can help bring, it to the attention of council for the next council meeting. If we see anything apparent that may have changed. Chris is gonna have the knowledge of what was on it last year. So we'll go from there. We do have a tight time frame because we need to have this in by October 17th, I believe. So, or 12th or 17th, it's one of those dates, so we have to deal with it at our September council meeting. Yeah, if anything comes up, we're gonna try and get that assessment and trip out there this week, I think, is when we're gonna try and get out there, because a few of us need to see the vastness of the county, and while we're doing it, we're gonna have an eye on the roads as well. Okay?
Oh, that's great.
Any other comments?
You don't need permission for a road trip.
He's gonna take, yeah, that's right. Okay,
I don't believe anything changed though, right? If I'm not mistaken, Chris or Troy, it's just roads that are up for paving.
Yeah.
It's again, not just dirt roads, but it does include any dirt roads that we would like to add to the list for paving
Right.
projects.
And I think the date, Troy, like you said, is October 17th, yeah, so that's the deadline, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So if there's no further discussion, we'll move on. We got with staff. Okay, so the next item on the list is the housing needs assessment. And this, I think, as I'm recalling, was kind of a confirmation of dates.
It was,
So Troy, maybe you could comment on that?
If I may, Warden, they originally gave us 4 dates. We were down to 2, and because of previous commitments of yourself, Councillor Dignan, and myself, we're down to 1 date.
Okay,
So October 6th is the only date that is now available for us to do this between 2:30, I think it starts at 2:30 in the afternoon, and it's a 2-hour session. Because the other date that was on the calendar was October 20th, but we're gonna be at the Cape Breton Partnership Investor Summit at that time, so we.
Just the fact, CEO McCullough, that it's on a Thursday.
Oh, Thursday, did I say,
Yes.
did I not say Thursday?
no, it's not. We have an ongoing joke, poor Sean, Councillor Sampson, his busy days are Wednesdays, and everything seems to fall on Wednesdays, so.
The fact that it's Thursday is awesome.
So I'm winning already.
So you're
Awesome.
in.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome, thank you.
Okay. But yeah,
So-
they gave us 4 Thursdays, the 6th, the 13th, 20th, and 27th. 13th and 27th are now off the table. They're booked by somebody else. The 20th, we're at the partnership. So the 6th seems to be the only day that works for us.
Okay, well,
October 6th it is.
yeah,
Yep.
October 6th it is. So
Okay.
could we ask maybe staff to provide us with like a calendar invite, so that's blocked out for us?
I will
and-
confirm with the ministry tomorrow,
Awesome.
and then hopefully they'll be coming back with that engagement session invite.
Great. Will
Perfect.
that be in person or virtual? I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
okay. Great. So we have a couple of, or any other further comments on that, or are we okay to move on? Okay. So we have a couple of staff recommendations asking council to refer items to various committees. So we'll just go through them one at a time. The first one is to refer the awards and recognition policy to Bylaw and Policy Committee for review. And I think there's been some information provided in the meeting package to that effect. I don't know, Troy, did you want to speak to that? Or?
I know, it's just there's some vagueness in some areas of that policy. There's some of it that's a little long in the tooth as well, so it's probably time to get eyes on it. And as I'm acquiring a new staff, the recognition and that kind of stuff is really important, and it's nice to have clear guidelines on that, so it'd be great to review that with council, so that we can hit the ground running on that and do it right, and do it together.
Okay. so councillors, any questions on that?
No, you need a motion?
Mhm.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Could I have a seconder on the motion to refer to Bylaw and Policy Committee?
Second?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. So the next item on the agenda is a staff recommendation again to refer received heritage submissions, of which we have 2, to the Heritage Advisory Committee for review. Again, information has been provided to that effect. So any questions from council, or if not, could I have a motion to make that referral?
I'll make a motion to refer.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councillor Mike Digdon. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the next one is a staff recommendation again to consider locations for digital speed radar signs throughout the municipality. So we do have the speed radar signs here, so that's exciting. And I guess at this point, we need to consider locations for them.
I can give you 3 right off the bat. I know originally I brought it up because my District 2 has been hounding me on the school side and coming into the West Area side, so again, I can only tell you that I get phone calls and emails every day coming through, especially coming down the, I guess over the hill into schools before you get to the hall seems to be the fly zone. West Area coming in just before you get to, again, McCacker's Road, coming into West Area where the reduction in speed seems to be a fly zone, but.
Can
we
I
have
maybe
several.
make a suggestion? I just,
Sure.
again, when we originally discussed it, right, it was certainly some concerns that residents had regarding the school zone, the high school in particular by the arena, and then also a residential area where students tend to congregate at lunchtime. And I think that if we sat around, we could probably all come up with a list of 2 or 3 places in our district where we'd love to see them, and I think that's why we got 2, so we could circulate them. So I'm wondering if it may make more sense for us to consider a list of each of our districts, send that forward to Troy, and then maybe we could just do, draw straws for whose district gets to use them first. We may be better off to think about how long we want them to sit in a spot and then come up with our list, because I think that's gonna be part of the issues too, right? And we did talk about only getting 2 because we could move them around, and that they're more effective that way, like after a certain period of time, they're less effective. So
Yeah.
just a suggestion on my part.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, no, I think we should go in numerical order.
Oh, it's me that brought it to council and got it on the budget.
What? No? It's just a suggestion, I'm not, I won't put that motion forward right away, but.
Starting with the highest number?
Did you say we have 2 sets?
We have 2 signs.
Do we have 2 or 2 sets?
They're not a set, they're
Right, so
individuals. Is that correct,
Numerical
Chris?
order works for me.
Yeah, they work independently, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't, like, a lot of the places we see them have,
One on
maybe
either
each,
side.
But
Yeah.
you don't necessarily
No.
have to do that. If you have,
No.
like, you may be talking about an area where the speeding issue is predominantly from one direction,
Right, yes, exactly.
so.
Yeah, I am for sure. Like, in both of the areas I would think of, one would do the trick,
Yeah.
right? It's about leaving the school and about heading up,
I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. I don't know who did bring it up originally, but I would think whoever did should probably get them first.
Wrong answer. Oh, yes.
I can even go back to the message.
All right. Well, I do think just, maybe in fairness, why don't we submit,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
if we think there's locations in our districts where they're needed, let's submit those through you, Troy, if that's
Yes, please.
okay. And maybe indicate if you think 1 or 2 would do the trick, in
Yeah.
terms of those locations,
And
okay?
maybe we can come up with at the same time a time frame where we think
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
1 month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah,
Again, it's no good to just put it in a school zone when they're out.
that's right.
No.
So to have it, you know what I mean, it's just,
But we do have them, and they'll calculate, they show you your speed, but they also do a traffic count, which is really great for us to be able to kind of maybe create some, some data for work on roads, et cetera, right? So, for the, our provincial and federal partners. So, maybe we could ask you to do that as quickly as possible, because we have them, we might as well have them up.
I just sent mine in, Troy. First guy on the main. Oh, no.
Okay, so that's great. So we'll move forward in that manner. And, you know, just kind of circling back on the staff recommendations to refer items to the various committees. I do think that at this stage, because we have some new folks in place and, you know, a new clerk starting soon, it might be a good idea for us to ask staff to undertake a bit of a structured policy and bylaw review. And maybe reinstate our 6 p.m. Policy and Bylaw Committee meetings right before our council meetings again on a regular basis, because we did leave in the summer with still quite a long list of changes that we wanted to get to. So councillors, would you be generally in favor of that, to do the 6 p.m. meetings again? Or there was a couple times where we did like a 2.5 hour session, which means it's on a whole other night, so I don't know what you'd.
Sometimes it was difficult to get much accomplished in 1 hour, it seemed like. But the odd time, if there was, every once in a while, for little things just to tie them up, it was
Right.
great. Sometimes we could tie 2 or 3 up. So, I don't know, it felt like we kind of did a mix of it before,
Yeah.
depending on what was needed, and
Yeah.
it seemed all right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I know what you mean, like it was almost like we'd run out of discussion time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Councillor Sampson
Okay.
that, Madam Warden, you can choose what you feel is right there, just ready to push forward.
Right.
And we can do a couple of those that night, and then
Okay.
those that you feel are gonna be in more discussion, maybe set a separate night aside and we can
Yeah,
pound them out.
okay,
can't
that's
find
great.
the
We'll
little
we'll
messaging.
start with that, get our feet back under us after the summer break with it, and we'll start that structured kind of review of things we have on the agenda now, and maybe look at things that need to be brought forward, so. Okay, great. Thank you, councillors. So next item on the agenda is HEO lease for Unity Drive. So councillors will recall likely that NSCC is seeking a lease agreement again so that they can conduct heavy equipment operator training. They've done that at in the joint park at the Unity Drive site for a number of years now. So I did want to let you know, and I don't know if I had a chance to connect with you on this, Troy, so apologies if not. But I consulted with Port Hawkesbury this afternoon because I circled back with NSCC. We were looking at, instead of a 2-year, a 1-year option, because there is interest in the property from a private source. However, so that's why we were thinking a 1-year term instead of a 2-year term. But after consulting with NSCC and the town of Port Hawkesbury and the private sector partner, all parties were comfortable with a 15-month term. So we could potentially look at doing a 15-month lease agreement commencing on October 1st. What that would allow the college to do is to conduct the program this fall, then again next fall. So they would get 2 cycles out of the 1 lease agreement. But we would avoid a full 2-year commitment, which I think would be a little bit more difficult for other parties to swing. So will councillors be in favor of a 15-month lease agreement? Okay. So I'd look for a motion to approve the NSCC heavy equipment operator use for 15 months with consideration of future developments that may require use of the property beginning on October 1st.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Warden, if I may, before we do
Yes.
the vote, I guess I just wanted to make a comment, given that both of us work for NSCC. We did chat about it earlier today, about whether or not we felt a conflict existed for us. Neither the warden nor myself would be directly involved in any decision-making about programming, particularly the HEO program. And so our feeling was that we didn't have a conflict, but felt we'd open that to other councillors. If you feel like there's any issue with us voting on the motion of the 15-month lease, we certainly would step aside.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay. Any further discussion? Thank you, Deputy Warden, for
Welcome.
bringing that up. Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. And just Port Hawkesbury, just for your information, Port Hawkesbury Town Council is going to be discussing this at their Tuesday night meeting, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday. So my understanding is that Terry and Mayor Brenda will be coordinating in the same fashion. So, okay. So next item on the agenda, I had a few items under my name for discussion. One was Develop Nova Scotia regarding a broadband update. So as you were all well aware, our federal funding application was denied for the joint project with Inverness County and First Nations to kind of do that coverage in the southern end of the Bredora Lake, which would have covered our Dundee, West Bay kind of area, which is really unfortunate. According to our last update from Develop Nova Scotia, there will be less than 100 people in Richmond County still not served with broadband at the end of their projects, which I think is end of 2023. Quote me on that, I'd have to double check. At the end of the day, we still do have a broadband and a cellular problem in the current, in the now. And so after speaking with MP Kellaway, he suggested that it might be helpful if we wrote a letter of support to him, encouraging the federal government to recapitalize the Universal Broadband Fund so that we can continue to make application under that fund, because these towers are difficult for certainly municipalities our size to finance on our own, difficult if not impossible. So, but I did want to just get kind of some feedback from council. Do we want to provide some instruction to staff to to continue to look into this, to look at other ways of financing that potential tower? Or what are your thoughts on that? Or are there other locations we need to consider as well? There's everywhere we need to consider, I recognize, but.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest things we all hear, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we want to let our foot off the gas if at all possible.
Definitely.
So we should write a letter if that's what MP Kellaway felt would maybe help at all. So I would say yes, you should write a letter on behalf of council, and yes, staff should continue to investigate areas. It's certainly a big issue.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. CAO, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
No, we had a meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, and it was all the CAOs in the quad counties, and it was brought up then that it wasn't just the broadband, it's the cellular as well, and that we need to get the letter going. We were expecting something from Antigonish first
Okay.
to come across the causeway to us to have a look at. That has not come yet. So, but it's along the same lines as what we're doing with the minister, so I think we're just ahead of the game there.
Okay.
So.
Great. Okay, so could I have a motion then for a letter to be written to MP Kellaway supporting recapitalization of the Universal Broadband Fund, and for staff to look at options for expanding broadband and cellular? Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is Point Tupper paving and fire incidents / hydrant request. This is a verbal update because we don't really have any documentation on it to share. As some of you may be aware, there was an unfortunate fire on Langley Lane in Point Tupper, I guess a couple of weeks ago now. And in light of that fire, certainly, we've been contacted by a number of residents and a business owner there, requesting that we look at a potential fire hydrant. We do know that a water line goes through there to the town's water system. I don't think we have at this stage any kind of real understanding of whether or not that water line would be even capable of supporting a hydrant, let alone, the cost to put something like that in. So, and frankly, like in the scheme of things, is one there, I don't want to say needed. The more we have of those, the better, but is that the priority for, where we would want to invest in that type of infrastructure? So I mean, the paving issue, we had through the J-class roads, been successful in getting an approval from the province to go forward investigating, working on towards paving Langley Lane. We know that the costs have come back much higher, almost double as to what the original estimate was. So we're waiting on the province at this point to come back to find out, there's some question as to whether or not they'd be willing to proceed, which would mean we can't proceed either. And just in the scheme of things where we're investing in that region, like, you know, is that the best place for the dollars, or would the hydrant, or is there something else we could be doing? So at this stage of the game, I guess I just wanted to bring that up, that the project itself is a little bit in question. Certainly the fire seems to have impacted the, you know, the feelings of the residents there on what the priority is. And at this point, I think we're waiting, but I would like to know if councillors would be supportive of staff, you know, investigating if a hydrant could be put in that region, on that water line, and if so, the cost. Would council be supportive of that, just so we have an understanding?
So would that be something maybe that our new hire can reach out to, no, but again, I personally don't know the particulars, like,
Yeah.
maybe one truck was there and for an hour left, thought the fire was out, they have 4 trucks in Hawkesbury. I just don't see, and again, I don't wanna downplay this, but
No.
I don't wanna, you know, one fire, I don't wanna say one fire doesn't deserve to get a fire hydrant. I just wanna say that maybe we could, I guess, you know, have a conversation with, you know, our emo guy in Port Hawkesbury Fire Department to see if it's even, if they
Yeah.
feel that it's,
I think it's kind of a combination of public works conversation and
Oh, yeah.
email conversation, really, like, so if that conversation could be had, because I understand your point very well. I guess one of the extenuating circumstances would be the type of business that's located there, and all kinds of pressurized, you know, gases and, you know, propanes and that type of thing, right? So, it's a lot to contend with, for sure, so. But yeah, like, I think you're bang on. It's a kind of a dual conversation, so. Okay, so would staff be supportive of, would council be supportive of asking staff to look into that further?
Sure.
Okay. Great. I don't know if we need a motion to that effect. We're not necessarily referring, but could we leave that with you, Troy?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
We've started some preliminary conversations, but it would be not proper to comment at this time.
Okay.
So,
do you wanna make a motion just so that we have it?
Sure, yeah. I don't want to make a motion.
No,
Do you
so
want
I'll
to
make
make
the
a
motion
motion?
that staff reach out maybe to Port Hawkesbury in conversation with,
Yeah.
to find out.
Okay, thank you. So, so Councillor Dignan has made a motion for staff to investigate the, you know, potential of fire hydrant in that area in the context of both Public Works and EMO. So could I have a seconder on that motion, please?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. We're trucking right along here. All right, the next item on the agenda that I wanted to bring up this evening is offshore wind and the ongoing Point Tupper energy developments. Just for council's information, I was privileged to spend part of Saturday at Everwind in Point Tupper as they brought in a team of mayors and councillors from the Burin Peninsula in Newfoundland to show them their site, because they're looking at a complementary project in Newfoundland in that location, and I think wanted to demonstrate to these other councils that this is real. The opportunity is real. And to kind of get into some of the details about, you know, the fact that they do have a facility, they do have staff, they've got expertise lined up. So it was a really great meeting, and really just was more of a meet and greet than anything else. And I know I've mentioned to you before in my role with NSCC that I co-chair the offshore wind task force with Mayor Brenda from Port Hawkesbury. And just as a kind of a reminder that the task force is a collection of industry, development, First Nations, fishers, and other stakeholders. We've done things like presentations to First Nations community. We did a presentation at Budladek. Had some strong interest there. They've presented here in the past, although I think we do need to go back to Budladek because they do have a new council. It's something I should have acknowledged at the beginning of our meeting this evening, as they've recently gone through an election and many new councillors at the table, with Chief Wilbert returning. So we'll have to revisit there. Inshore fishers are represented on that task force. Our guiding principle is really to engage all the stakeholders that in the ocean and users of the wind to share that resource without damaging any existing industries. You know, and I think, probably don't need to explain, but we do need to secure a green energy future, not just from a planetary climate perspective, but also from a local economic development perspective. We know Nova Scotia Power plans to phase out coal by 2030. We have many jobs here at the generation plant that are dependent on that work. Not to mention, it's the primary commodity on our rail line. So that will be at risk with no cargo if we don't start to diversify our thinking. So an economic and a climate responsibility there. The work of the group to date has been focused on advocating for regulatory change, doing consultations with stakeholders, doing research, supporting industry, and advancing supply chain and workforce readiness. We actually have, from Richmond County, a local recent grad, Jennifer McNeil in St. Peters. She's working on research related to capacity and engagement, funded through MyTax in partnership with NSCC and Dalhousie University. So she's right here in our county doing this kind of research as a recent grad from Dalhousie, and is doing a bang-up job. And I can send a summary of her work if you would be interested in that. So you'll see what her objectives. I do want to, also mention that opportunities for green, clean hydrogen and other fuels. The opportunity is huge here in Point Tupper. We have a number of private sector partners knocking on our door, as was demonstrated on Saturday. So I do think, at this stage, I felt that it would probably make sense for Richmond County to be a little more strongly or formally represented at the table. I know I've been there, but again, it's been very much in my role with NSCC. And I think, I think maybe there's an opportunity for us to be more engaged somehow. And I don't know if that's through perhaps asking the new CAO to be a part of that task force, or if another councillor from this table would like to be a part of it, or if you would just like me to start bringing back regular information. I feel like things are starting to get very real and and heating up in Point Tupper specifically. And obviously the connection there between the hydrogen production in Point Tupper and the offshore wind piece of work is that in order for it to be clean hydrogen, it needs to come from a renewable energy source. You can't burn coal or LNG to create hydrogen because it's not considered clean and it won't meet the demands of the world export market. So, I have so much information I could share, but I didn't want to bombard everybody.
You're on a 15-minute time limit?
It's a little scary how much information there is available. But that all being said, Nova Scotia is in the top 3-ish places in the world for our offshore wind resource when you factor in our closeness to the European market, the assets, from the Sable offshore production that are no longer in use, the amount of wind. It's really windy here, but also so much opportunity and great water depth between the mainland and Sable Island. It's just an unheard of combination of factors. So, but that being said, very interested in making sure that it's about diversifying our economy and not creating something new at the expense of something else. So that's kind of where our heads are right now. So I don't know, councillors, I'll open it for discussion. How would you like to be more involved, or if you would like to be more involved, you can let me know. Or you can think about it, we can talk about it later.
So personally, I guess if there's any discussions to be had, any meetings, whatever, I'm available to attend, or I'll do my best to be available to attend. So I guess I'll put my name out there for that. But
Okay.
again, if you have information that you can bring back, then it's more than welcomed as well.
Yeah, okay. So Councillor Digdon is expressing an interest, and would love to have you there as well, Troy. I think that would be great from a staff connection perspective.
Yeah, same here.
Councillors?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on board. I think the last time they had an open house or an information session, it was on a Wednesday, so.
It was on a Wednesday.
That's too funny.
Yeah, no, I would, yeah.
That was at the request of the warden, in
Yeah.
case you weren't aware of
I
that.
swear, I'm not doing it on purpose.
Bad.
All right, well, at this point, maybe we could, just make it official. I'd be looking for maybe a motion for Richmond County to request to add a staff, and if you're willing, an additional council representative to the task force. Would that be okay at this point?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Could I have a motion to that effect then?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Warden.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you,
Is the
Councillor
number
Sean
one
Sampson.
pillar in our strat plan refresh, growing the economy. I think
That's
it's our best opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we have, the motion on the floor is to add one staff and one counselor, or to request to add one staff and one counselor to the offshore wind, task force. And in terms of further discussion on that, I do want to also mention that local, former resident Scott Urquhart from the Dundee area has been advising on, this group and has been advising the province on, sustainable, a sustainable path forward in this sector. So it's really cool that there's a Richmond County connection there. So
And for those who don't know, he made his first dollar selling golf balls.
That's right.
And then when he learned how to golf, he made more money by challenging them to golf and still sold them the golf balls.
excellent.
That's right. Entrepreneurial. All right. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Now watch your email. Here it comes. Information. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is acting collectively regarding mail out. Staff provided some information in our packages regarding a request related to the acting collectively work that's going on. And so the group has been meeting to try to figure out how is the best way to reach the people who are the most difficult to reach. And of course, as we had talked about with our accessibility planning, we felt that some of our most vulnerable citizens who, and seniors in particular, who would be needing access or benefit the most from access to this project, are the folks who maybe are not on Facebook or,
That's right.
they have limited means by which to engage. And so a mail out has been suggested. It's outside of the budget that we've already provided to them, which was funded through the provincial grant. Then they're looking for $669 to support their work to ensure that they can reach the seniors in our county. So I've looked for some either discussion or a motion from council to support that expense because it's outside of our budget. And maybe Troy, before I ask for staff to make a motion, financially, would staff consider this to be something feasible that we could support? It's a relatively small amount, but would you?
I believe it was, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so councillors, would you support that?
Yeah, and my only comments on this is I think it's imperative to make sure the project works well. The more people they can connect with, the better the information they can gather on this. And as important as seniors are in our county, I think we want to do everything we can here to make this project successful. And especially where it was like a joint application through the county for this as well. So I'd be willing to make a motion to cover the cost of the mail out for the
Okay.
Acting Collectively project.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder on that?
Yeah, second that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? All right, that motion is carried. All right, the next item on the agenda is a request from the Lewisdale Lions Club regarding the washroom facility that they have on site and open to the public. And they've provided detailed background on sort of, the use of it and their situation in terms of being able to continue to support it financially. My feeling on this is that we may want to refer this to staff for some assessment to see what we would be potentially taking on in terms of maybe, the building condition, building accessibility, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, councillors, what do you think on this point?
Personally, I don't believe that, and this is only a personal opinion, that it's, I hate to say our problem, because I don't want to word it like that. However, I think if we open up this can of worms, then we also have, the Pit Ball Field, we have the recreation center in River Bourgeois, we have the center in St. Peter's. Again, I'm all about, I did read down where there were expecting money in the past and didn't get it, so I would say maybe fill out another grant application and apply for funding to help with the repairs. I don't like the number 1 changes. That's not even an option, I believe, to bypass the meter service that runs to the washroom. I would say, you know, if it's the same as the hall, if you go open it in the morning, then have the same person on your committee close it, and if you can't open it in the morning, then I guess whoever is using the ball field is gonna have to reach out for a porta potty situation or whatever. That might be another alternative to them keeping them open.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't believe it's a staff. I don't believe we wanna start having staff go and
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just hosted a provincial baseball tournament for 14, 15-year-olds, and it was greatly attended, and comments and compliments that one of the best tournaments ever. So there was games in Peterborough, there was also games in Rosedale, where there was porta potties. And, you know, some of the discussion was that this is a great facility. There's a tennis court, there's a soccer field, there's a nice baseball field, and just no washroom facilities, right, for that weekend. And there was porta potties. And I'm with Councillor Digdon, where to the point where it shouldn't fall on us, but we should try to do what we can. Maybe another grant application, like Councillor Digdon mentioned, but yeah, we should try to do our best to make that work for the Loser Lions Club and for that facility.
So did you say there were porta potties in
There was
Rosedale?
porta potties.
As
Yep.
well as the public washroom?
No, the porta, the
Oh, that
public
was
washrooms
closed.
were not open.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was the only kind of, you know, downfall on
Right.
the situation.
Okay,
The Losedale Lions Club is a beautiful building, and the renovations and their equipment garage has been renovated, and you know it's great facility. So
mhm,
whatever we can do there to help out Tommy and the Losedale Lions Club, I think we have to make that better for them for sure.
okay.
So I
Deputy
think,
Warden?
you know, in conversations that I've had with Tommy in the past, as the president of the Lions Club, have really centered around the fact that those washrooms, it's in the basement of the facility, they really serve no purpose to the Lions Club itself on a regular basis, so that the only reason that they are there, if you will, is to support the recreation facilities that surround the building. So it's not that these are the washrooms that are used, like, when they'll have events at the Lions Club or when they have meetings at the Lions Club, those are all in the upstairs, so these are actually in the basement.
Yeah.
And they were there, like I said, they were installed at that time to support like baseball games and whatever. And certainly the conversation also centered around the fact, you know, that we host tennis lessons there, for example. They've never charged the county for that. So I think their feeling is a little bit like that they've been community-minded in terms of allowing us to host programs there, and that they hope we perhaps would reciprocate in some way, right? You know, to kind of balance that out. And I see their point of view. I mean, I'm disappointed to see that after the last event that happened where the water was left on and they had this huge water bill, that they didn't take steps to locking the doors as they've suggested as being a suggestion. So, you know, or to have people going there more often, more frequently to check on them. So I was a bit disappointed to see that. Again, at that time, that's, you know, when we came back out with the grants program, I did speak to the president of the club. I spoke to Tommy at that time. We had talked about a few different things. They have a few different projects on the go, and I just said, you know, that here's your opportunity to perhaps look for funding. But, you know, again, my recollection was that, you know, because the club itself wasn't using that wasn't the best use of their application for grant funding.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they have other things, I think, that they sort of have in the hopper that would have more, you know, that's more in line with the vision that they're looking for their other location, which is actually in my district, right? So, I think they're doing some work there. So, you know, I would agree. I mean, certainly, I don't know that any of these options make sense, because we've talked about doing different things at other facilities that don't belong to us as a county, and how that's not appropriate, right? And so I don't know that any of the items here in their current format, any of the suggestions made by Tommy would be like would work. I think the only thing that would work here is if they really wanted to do it, would be to put an application in for funding. You know, well, I think we just need to be prepared and I, you know, as a county, you know, and I guess I look to Shannon as the recreation director, right? Is that, you know, are we prepared as a county to accept that if there's nothing gonna come out of this on our end, that they're gonna shut down those washrooms, they're gonna take them apart, and then there will not be washroom facilities in that area. You know, and we maybe, like, if you think about it, there's lots of other locations in the county where we have baseball fields or whatever, and we don't have washrooms there either, you know,
Yeah.
or we do tennis lessons and we don't have,
Yeah.
you know, well, not other places for tennis lessons, but you get the drift.
Yeah.
So I think I would like to see staff think about potential solutions that could sort of, you know, ensure that our recreation programs will be properly, you know, sourced or supported, I guess. And also to be able to support the Lions Club, but, you know, again, I don't know that any of these suggestions are gonna be the ones.
I don't know if you can answer this, Deputy Warden, but is there, I know there's power in the building closest to the field, the barn style
Yeah.
garage. Is there water and sewer running to that building? Probably not, eh?
My feeling is no, but I can't answer that for sure, I'm not sure. Probably, the Director of Public Works would know that better than me,
Right.
but I don't feel that there is. I think water goes as far as the building there, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that might be an option for the future, right? And if, you know, they don't wanna use that space in the Louisdale Lions Club
Yeah.
building itself for washrooms.
Yeah.
Maybe they can put it in the building that's
Well, I
close
think
to
they're
the
fine
field.
with using it for washrooms, they just don't wanna be responsible for the
Right,
washrooms.
for-
I think
right.
that they're willing to let us
Well, who
use
cleans the
that
washrooms? Right? And who,
right.
I'm going to
There's
go
a-
with nobody. Well, I would say, honestly, I would say a member of the Louisdale Lions Club
Yeah.
probably goes down and cleans it,
Yeah.
because they replenish the toilet paper and
Right.
replenish the
there's gotta be
paper
somebody
towels.
supplying it.
So again, I don't mean to come off as,
No.
you know, it's not priority, because anybody who goes to a ball field and has to spend 4 or 5 hours on a doubleheader
Yeah.
is more than happy to see the washroom available right there on the
That's right.
side. So, and like every other ball field, you know, River Bourgeois as well, we have donated money. I guess the issue is, again, it's not about the funding as much as it's about who is going to take care of it
Maintain
and maintain it. And the only problem that being is if we don't own it, then how do we maintain it?
Yeah, well, I think it's about the fact that they're not going, you know, again, my understanding, because they're aware that the grants exist, is that's not what they're looking for here. You know, they're looking for us to say, okay, you've let us, we're gonna use these facilities when we have our recreation programming there, or when recreation activities happen, and, you know, if you think about our strategic plan, we want these things to happen. And they, you know, they're sort of like, we're willing to let you have this space, but you need to take care of it.
So would they be okay if, and I'm only throwing this out there, the ball team that uses that as their home field?
Yeah, it seems to me like it's only
Maybe.
a matter of communicating with the groups that are using it for recreation, right?
I think they just want it taken care of, and they
Yeah.
just want to ensure that they don't find themselves with a washroom that's in disrepair
Right.
and a
Another
water
big
bill that's
water bill.
astronomical.
So
or
again,
a
maybe
power
that's
bill
a
that's
step that we
astronomical.
can look at is, you know, I do know there is one ball field that uses it, you know, that it's their home field, they use it weekly, practice games, et cetera. Again, that's only summertime, but in the winter it'll be shut down anyway. So, you know, we could reach out to that ball team or I can reach out to that ball team and see if they would be interested in, or staff can reach out to the ball team.
Yeah, okay. Counselor Sampson, did you wanna chime in, or?
Well, I just, I understand where you're coming from. I
Yeah.
don't know that we wanna, take that on from a staff perspective as far as the maintaining it. I hope we don't underestimate the importance of publicly accessible washrooms,
Yes.
because especially in a rural county, we don't have enough of them, and it's not easy to solve this. But especially anybody traveling or anybody there for any extended period of time, public washroom access in a lot of places is really not where I think a lot of us would like to see it. Ideally, if we can come up with some kind of solution to maintain it, however that may be, but I understand from a staff perspective, it's not ideal, but maybe reaching out to some of these organizations, as you suggested, would be the best course forward.
Would it be fair to, maybe ask Tommy or the Lions Club to get a quote on what they feel would, I know they listed what they feel needs to be replaced, but maybe get a quote on what they, on a new band.
I feel like it's a little premature for
Yeah.
that, because we don't know what kind of role we could play, right? So, at this point, maybe, I think your suggestion about maybe talking to a few of the stakeholders,
Okay,
the home team and the,
Well,
you know,
and the
and
county of
Lions
Richmond, who's
Club
also a
and the-
stakeholder, right?
Yeah,
Because we
exactly.
hold, like, kind of back to the fact that we're holding
Right.
recreation activities there.
Exactly.
So we're a stakeholder too.
Exactly.
You know,
I
like,
don't believe we held any this year though, correct?
that'd be a question for,
No.
Yeah.
we've done it in the past though, I think every year, but.
Okay. All right, so, I think my preference is that we would ask staff to maybe lead some of those discussions unless someone's feeling very passionate about doing it, or whatever you want. Okay, so maybe Troy, we could leave that with you for a discussion with several of the stakeholders.
You got it.
Yeah, and Troy, if
Some
staff
problem solving.
needs information on, like,
Right.
like Councillor Dignan said, the ball team in question, or, some of the contacts in charge of that team, yeah, we can get you that information as well.
We'll call on Thursday.
Okay.
Not Wednesday.
That's awesome. Okay, sounds good, all right. Okay, so I think that matter's relatively settled? Okay,
Should we send I guess, maybe we should send,
yes, a reply to
A reply
Tommy,
to-
yeah,
We'll start with him, I believe.
yeah,
send them a reply just that we're going to look into the matter and see what we can do.
okay.
I would.
Perfect.
And maybe just to make it official, we could have a motion to
Yeah.
ask staff to investigate the matter further.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson.
I'll second that, please.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is a follow-up, really, from an item that Councillor Mike Digdon had brought to the table, which is the look-off at Babbins Hill. And I believe, Troy, you had some information to share on that, or questions to ask, something
Well,
like
sure,
that.
if I may.
Yes.
Madam Warden, through you to the council, it was just looking for clarity on what it was exactly you were looking for, and to make all of council aware of the maps that were done during, I believe it was the 2015 rec plan as well. It laid out some ideas for development in this area, and I was wondering if you were referring to some of that, because then we can build off of those diagrams. Because we went out and looked at the site as well, and going on one direction, it's too steep, like
Right.
back towards here, it's just way too steep, but
Yep.
heading back towards West Ayrshire.
Towards the intersection.
That's right, there is room to work there, so we were just looking for some clarity from you, so that as we dig into this, we're going in the right direction and we're on the same page, that's all.
Right, and that's exactly what, I actually took Councillor Sampson to show him back several months, and then, I had discussion with transportation just to, and again, transportation seems to have no issues with the,
Right away, or?
with the right of way or anything at all. And we own, I believe, right up to the intersection, so we can come back as far as, deemed fit or deemed feasible. My deal was just to increase the lot and the look off.
Perfect,
You know,
okay, so,
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Troy, I mean, where the lot is at now and where the picnic area, it's just a cliff.
mhm.
And I think going more towards the intersection and the stop sign would be more of an option to expand and be safer for more people, right? Yeah. That are stopping there to view it, right? So I think
It's now one of my stops on my way. in.
I offered to cut the trees, but I was quickly denied permission.
No, it's a great
No.
stop, it's a great stop, okay.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Okay.
The
So we can come back, sorry.
Yeah, the only question I would have before staff spends any great amount of time on this, right, is like, is this something that, and again, I mean no disrespect when I'm asking the question is this a real problem? Do we find ourselves that the look off has too many cars at any given time to accommodate them? Like, I don't
We
travel,
never- we
I don't travel very
So,
often.
so
past
it's the other
things.
way, the people, if there's one or two cars, the other people will continue to go, but they'll slow down and try and look over, and there's just, even the picnic area, it's used it's used daily,
Okay,
but like throughout the whole day, there's probably 15, 20 people that are sitting there, and then, 2 or 3 now, and 2 or 3 in an hour, and 2 or 3, it eliminates the, I guess, it would increase the chance of somebody stopping and taking a look or doing it's just, it's one of the only great look-off spots we have on the island. You know, the lighthouse is right across, it's
Stunning.
open to the harbor and open to the ocean. It's just to increase the tourist perspective, I guess,
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, certainly not questioning, like,
Yeah,
how lovely the
and
look
the
off
problem-
is, I've stopped there myself and had lunch.
Unfortunately, there's only
But I
really
just, the
room for
question
2 cars and there's one
is, you
picnic
know,
table, so it
yeah,
kinda,
yeah.
So we'll take a look and bring back the recommendations from the 2015 report as well. That was part of that blue canoe thing. I think it was done under the wayfinding and making sites within our community. So that'll be one that we can look at.
Okay,
can you forward me that?
Sure.
2015, thank you.
okay. Any further questions? And you have the clarity you need to proceed?
I believe we do.
Okay.
I'll look over to our Director of Public Works and think we have our marching orders. I think we know the direction and what the end goal is at this point, and I think it is. It's to increase the usage and the footprint of the area. I like the idea of the traffic aspect as well, because I do find myself rubbernecking at that place sometimes, because if there are too many vehicles, I will keep driving, but I still find myself trying to look out there as well. So it is, it's a good idea. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Troy. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is community acknowledgements, and I think we may have a couple to mention this evening. So I did want to mention right off the bat, a huge congratulations and a thank you to Richard Landry, who is our Volunteer of the Month for August 2022. Richard is from Sampsonville, and he has been, I think, volunteering in the community for well over 30 years, so it's a small gesture of thanks for a lifetime of service, and you would probably know him in his role of treasurer for the St. Peter's Lions Club. He's the voice of the community bingos that take place every week, and is always out either delivering bingo books or collecting the unsold books or organizing the cash or you name it. And he has done he's done people's taxes for many, many years, is involved with the Knights of Columbus and the Roman Catholic Church. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to Richard for his excellent lifetime of volunteer service. We really appreciate it. Does anybody else have any other community acknowledgements that they wanted to mention? Councillor Sampson.
Yeah, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Joan Clennon for being named Volunteer of the Month for the month of July. You'd be hard pressed not to find Joan when it comes to any kind of community events. She's right there when it comes to Noel Almadam and Development Almadam and the Legion and Peterborough Beautification. And so she's on many boards and volunteers her time many times in this community. So I just want to congratulate Joan Clennon.
Well said, definitely. Okay. And we do have, I think, our Volunteer of the Year is Grace DeWolf as well. So she's been put forward from our last group of volunteers and has been put forward to represent us provincially. So wonderful to see young people getting involved in our community. And I know one of the things that she does is bake all kinds of wonderful things for our welcome group in St. Peter's. So we really appreciate that and all the work that she does. So lots to be thankful for on the volunteer front in Richmond County these days.
For sure.
I have-
also, oops, sorry.
You go ahead, finish your,
Yeah,
finish your
so I
acknowledgement.
also want to congratulate the Peterborough Red Caps.
That hurt.
Hey,
That
20 years ago, I wouldn't be doing this, but
Can we take a break, please? That hurts.
no, but in all seriousness, the Peterborough Red Caps this year have won the National 57U Baseball Championship. So, so they're national champs at the 57U level. They won that in Halifax last month sometime. This group also won that tournament back in 2006 in the 35U division. So that's a great accomplishment, right? For a little ball team from Almadam. That's,
It's wonderful.
that's great stuff. And they've also won the Richmond Amateur Baseball Association Championship, which is our Richmond County Baseball League locally. They've won that this year for the third year in a row, I think. So, these guys, it's not only a team, it's more like a culture. They're like family. It's more like a family, those guys. And they've suffered great loss the last couple of years. But in the end, they always end up in the same place, celebrating their accomplishments, right? So they should be proud. I'm sure their loved ones that are looking down on them are proud, and our county is proud. So just want to congratulate them.
Well said. Okay. Deputy Warden.
Yeah, so I just want, we talked about the Loosedale Lions Club tonight. I just want to congratulate them on really hosting a wonderful series of events at their venue that's located in my district, a waterfront venue there. They've hosted some, community concerts, and there's been barbecues. I mean, those have been kind of run jointly with the parish, but just really brought a great sense of vibrancy to the community. I didn't make it to any of them. I was gone for every single one, but I've heard from a lot of people about how wonderful they were. And to congratulate them as well, they have a couple of big events coming up on October the 8th, and kind of encourage folks to come out and participate in those. They're having like a chili cook-off, so I think that's something new. I've never heard of that in Richmond County, and they have 10 different restaurants who are going to participate in the chili cook-off. It's from like 11 to 4. You should buy your tickets in advance. Those are for sale. So check out the Loosedale Lions Facebook page to get some contact. $15 a person. I don't know. That's a lot of great chili for $15. So it sounds like a good time. And then they're going to top off that night from 8 to 10. And they are going starting at 7. They're having a country and folk music concert there as well. And so they have Tyler Shea, Isabella Sampson, and Robert Bouchard, as well as Nick the Pick Boudreau. So it's going to be a good time, I think. There's advance tickets for that as well.
Great.
So just wanted to congratulate them on a lot of really wonderful events that they're doing, both to promote inclusiveness in the community, but also to raise some funds to continue improving the facilities that they do have in the district. So congratulations to them.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Are there any others?
Yeah, I have one, I guess, starting off, I don't know where you start, but I guess it'll be the U15A Tier 1 Richmond Cougars baseball team. It's and myself and Councillor Sampson probably played ball for the last 45 years, and this is the first time I can say that the provincial tournament was actually held in our county.
Amazing.
And, a great thank you to, coaching staff, Stuart Kelly, Rod Sampson, Mark Sampson, and Angel Sampson for, Richards, Sampson/Richards for, the coaching. A big shout out to Spencer Kelly for keeping, anybody who knows little Spencer, keeping the crowd entertained as the bat boy. But, just a job well done, and all the volunteers, it's not just one person who gets something like that done in this kind of tournament. It takes numerous amount of volunteers. I guess a shout out at the same time to the Peterborough Redcaps for an amazing job they did on the field. Nothing but compliments all weekend. Probably the nicest field that all these teams ever played on, and they made that a statement out there. I guess I'd be undermissed to say a shout out in that same breath to Warren Olson for the grand slam home run he hit during the RABA championship game. He seems to think that they wrote 311 on the wall. It should have been 360 or 370 down that line. He's going to double check the measurement, but again, just to the Richmond Cougar baseball team, great job, great event, well hosted, and made our county proud. The kids played well, they played hard, and they were very respectful on the team. So
That's awesome. Thank you, Councillor Digdon. And I know I couldn't make it to the opening ceremonies. I think we supported them with some swag. But just, definitely a reminder for groups like that, when you're hosting events, especially bringing people in from outside the county has such a great impact. Please don't hesitate to fill out a grant funding application, because this is the kind of thing we want to support and encourage in our county. It really, it's really wonderful for everyone involved. So, and I hope you didn't think you were going to leave this meeting without having me talk about Pirate Days, because that's coming up in this week, in a couple of days. It starts on Thursday. There's lots of great activities for kids, a lot of it free or low cost, and lots of great activities for the grown-ups too. So people can find out more information at visitstpeters.com. We have our full schedule located there. So, and when I'm saying we, I mean as a community. I'm not a part of the Pirate Days organizing committee, but I just want to say a huge thank you to the folks who are, and to all of the festivals that returned in force this past summer and into the fall. I know it was been a huge lift after COVID, so thank you very much to them for just knocking it out of the park this year. It was amazing. Okay, So it's been a busy community acknowledgement section of our agenda, but it's been a couple months since we met, so that's to be expected. Any others before we move on? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to correspondence and action required. So the first item is a citywide letter requesting support. And information on this was circulated in your council packages. And my computer's just a little bit lagging on me here. So just wanted to open this for discussion from council. This group is looking for a letter of support. It is regarding internet access and affordability. Specifically related to Eastlink, and I think that's my only flag of concern with this particular correspondence. But I would like to open for councillors to discuss. So does anybody have any comments as to whether we should provide a letter of support or not?
Yeah, that's a, I mean, it's a tough one for sure. I mean, you don't want to get involved with picking or choosing, internet providers. I know, when you hear the word affordability, in this day and age, it's hard to ignore that word, but it's also a situation I'm not quite sure if we should get involved in.
Yeah, and certainly we have our own plans moving forward to advocate for affordable broadband and cellular, so, yeah. Any other comments on that?
So Madam Warden, we always have the option just to receive for information, right? So.
Yeah. So we'll just receive that for information and leave it? Is council on board with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Councillor Digdon, you okay with that?
Yeah, I was just reading the
Okay.
email and it said,
Great.
September 1st, and it said year done, so on that note, I probably would have just,
Okay, yeah.
Well, was this not the one that had to be received by today as well, or
Yeah, I
something?
think there was a really tight
Yeah.
timeline on it, so
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
the timing's not great either, so.
Yeah, they're going to the
Regardless, it's
governor's
still a no
council.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so the next item on the agenda then is the FCM email regarding RCMP back pay. And again, this is a request for a letter of support. I think the email was cut off a little bit in the council package just because of the formatting of it, but I think we probably would have all received it directly from FCM. I would love to open it, but yeah, I'm having a lag time issue here. So I'm just open it for discussion from council as to whether or not we would like to write a letter on this particular issue. It's an ongoing one, and certainly no decisions have been made yet, but could potentially impact us greatly, and has already frankly impacted us greatly in this year's budget when we saw an 11% jump in our RCMP costs. So, any comments?
yeah, I guess I only have one, like I said in the past, would be, and I know we have to do it a year in advance, and that would be to review the officer status. Again, and I'm not saying we don't require them, I guess, again, my question is, if we're paying for 9, do we require 9? Can we get away with 8? Can we get away with 7? Do we need, has our population base
Right.
shrunk so that we're, and again, if I do recall when we had the meeting, it's almost a year in advance, we have to ask for changes.
In this particular case, the FCM note, though, is related to, are we interested in writing a letter to our MP?
Oh, correct,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would be.
Okay.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
this whole issue of the back pay, it was kind of kept hidden, seemed like, from municipalities until the deal was settled, and then, so I'm fine with the federal government taking care of that.
Well, they made the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so councillors would be in agreement to write a letter?
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to
Okay,
have staff write a letter.
okay, so the motion is to write a letter to our MP Kellaway, expressing our concern for the retroactive costs being borne by municipalities. Would that summarize your motion, okay?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. Okay, so the next item on our agenda for correspondence is FASD Awareness Month. and again, information has been provided in the package. So FASD is fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. It's a diagnostic term used to describe impacts on the brain and body of individuals prenatally exposed to alcohol. FASD is a lifelong disability. Individuals will often experience some degree of challenges in their daily living, need support with motor skills, physical health, learning, memory, and a whole host of other challenges. So a draft proclamation has been provided by FASD to proclaim September as FASD Awareness Month, I think is how it's termed. And I guess I'm looking at this point, after having reviewed it in the package, would Councillor be in favor with supporting that proclamation, in Richmond Countyizing it in the places where they say,
Province.
Yeah, okay. So if so, could I have a motion to that effect, and then I'll read the proclamation, if that's okay?
Yeah, I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sean.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. So any further discussion? Okay, that motion is, oh, sorry. I better ask you to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried now. So I'm just going to read the proclamation. I'm going to ask you to bear with me. So the proclamation reads, Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Week is Awareness Month is September 2022. So whereas FASD is a diagnostic term used to describe impacts on the brain and body of individuals prenatally exposed to alcohol, FASD is a lifelong disability, and individuals with FASD will experience some degree of challenges in their daily living and need support with motor skills, physical health, learning, memory, attention, communication, emotional regulation, and social skills to reach their full potential. Each individual with FASD is unique and has areas of both strengths and challenges. Whereas FASD NL is a pan-provincial organization that educates, provides, supports, and resources and raises awareness about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder in Atlantic Canada. And whereas FASD NL is leading a 3-year FASD prevention, awareness, training, and collaborative action project in the 4 Atlantic provinces. And whereas FASD Awareness Week was devoted to raising awareness of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder to improve prevention of FASD and diagnosis and support for individuals with FASD, and broad public awareness helps to put FASD on the map. And therefore I, Amanda Mumbercat, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2022 to be FASD Awareness Month as cause issue special occasion as a cause in the County of Richmond as of today, September 12th, 2022. So thank you very much for your support. Stumbled a little bit there. It's getting late in the evening.
It is.
So,
And
all
they
right.
would like a photo.
Pardon me?
And they would like.
And they would like a
We
photo.
would love a photo of the proclamation.
Yes,
Signed, but it's
so
already-
we'll do that. We'll take a photo. All right. And that's kind of a time-sensitive one because it is this month, so thanks for bringing that forward.
Perfect.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is Breaking Barriers Together. Again, a request for a letter of support. Information has been circulated in your package. So again, there's some terminology in this, I think in this letter specifically, that was a little concerning, but would just like to open it for comments by councillors, or do you want to have this as an item received for information, or would you like to provide a letter of support at this point in the game? Okay.
I'm fine with it just being received for information.
Okay. So Councillor Brent Sampson is just suggesting we receive for information. Councillor Sean is agreement.
Yeah, I think that's fine. They do talk there, is that they'll soon have something open on their website, so I think
Exactly.
it probably makes more sense to go there and do that when they have that
Okay,
organized individually, yeah.
great, okay. Councillor Digdon?
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Thank you. So next item on our agenda, we have a couple of grant requests. The first is from the Holy Guardian Angels Parish. These have been provided to us with memos from Jason Martell, our CFO, so thank you for that, Jason. So the Holy Guardian Angels Parish request is for a Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Fund in the amount of $5,000 to support kind of a parish anniversary event, it looks like. And so I'll just open that for discussion, or maybe I'll start with you, Councillor Brent Sampson, if you would like to make any comments on this, and I'll also ask staff, I guess, to provide any comments if they have some.
Yeah, so I understand, especially as our funds are getting a lot lower. I'd be more than willing to put 2,000 from my district fund towards this, if we could find the remainder from the general fund.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Sampson. And maybe I should actually, Troy, ask you, did staff have any contacts or any information that they wanted to
I'll defer
provide?
to Jason.
Okay.
No, you've done such a great job
Have I?
explaining it.
Have
Yeah,
I summed that up?
No, it doesn't
Thank
need anything
you.
to be added.
Nice.
Well done. All right.
Nicely done.
All right. Okay.
That was pretty slick. It went right around very quickly there.
I almost got whiplash.
Hot potato.
All right. Does anybody else have any other comments on this one?
I think the only, and again, we dealt with the same deal, I believe, for the parish and
The roof.
for both parishes, actually. I believe this one over here and the one in Petitagras is that we felt that, I guess, giving funds to the parish was something that, well, was owned by the diocese, therefore we weren't really, it wasn't something that we felt that we could support. So for Councillor Sampson to take it out of the district fund, that's great, but other than that, I don't really feel that that's something we can support.
So it's not an infrastructure
Right,
thing
it's
in
not
this. This is like a year-long 200th anniversary of the parish. So they have a budget included in here and so on and that, but it's not, there would be no money going into infrastructure in the buildings that could be then turned around and sold by the diocese. So that's where it would differ in this case.
Thank you for that clarification. So any other comments on this?
Yeah, no, the only concern I would have as well is Councillor Digdon, we had documentation saying that none of that, if the roof in Petitagras was going to enhance the market share of that building, that, the diocese was saying that whatever that building was sold for was going back to the parish and the parish group. Again, those funds are going back into this group. The funds for the church, if it would have been sold, was going back to this group. But still, we decided not to take anything out of our regional fund for those projects, right? So, I agree with Councillor Brent's district funding of $2,000. I'm not quite sure where I would sit with the regional part of it myself. So.
Okay. Thank you. Deputy Board.
So it's not an infrastructure grant, so I don't know that the analogy necessarily works for me, so that's not my issue at all. Certainly my issue is our dwindling pocket of funds, right? So I'm definitely more concerned about the fact that our type 4 has $8,500 remaining in it and we still have a lot of year left to go. We have other requests for this evening as well. And so, I think if Councillor Sampson is interested to put 2,000 of his funds directly in there, if there would be a little bit more of a slant here, maybe in terms of like the event being something that would draw people in or something, I think there may be a little bit more of, and I think that's going to happen, but I think I would certainly support Councillor Sampson's 2,000, but I'm not sure that I'm interested in.
One other thing I would mention, just even if you don't want to go the full 5, but to my knowledge, I don't think there's been any of the grant funding that's gone to District 5 as of this year.
No.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
far. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
of that
Any of the big pool of money.
period?
Any-
I don't
no.
believe there's any of the
Yeah.
the
Brent-
district funding gone to District 5 this year as
No.
well, though.
No, that's why I was
That's
willing to
right.
put it at 2,000 quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but out of the general fund, there hasn't been any
Any.
to District 5 at all this year.
Okay.
So that's why I think this would be fairly reasonable, only because there has been no other requests that we've granted for the district.
Okay.
Okay. So, my only, I guess, question mark on it is it's a 2/3, right? And I know normally we've tried to stick closer to the 50% mark or something like that. And do you think something like that would be palatable to the group, Councillor Sampson? Because that would be like 3,500-ish or something like, you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Whatever, Sorry.
I'm just trying to find their
30
budget of their
37.
project
Yeah,
right here,
it
that's
was
what I'm,
down the
that's,
bottom here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm
3750 would be.
3750 would do
Yeah.
it, yeah.
okay.
So are they asking for,
5, but if we could do 1750 from the general fund, if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah,
and then
that's what I'm
2,000.
suggesting,
Yeah.
because we do have a dwindling
Yeah. No, I
amount in
understand
there.
that.
so is the amount usually half of what the,
We have typically not done the
More than that.
majority of.
No.
I don't think we had a
of the
hard
project.
rule on it, but generally we've done that.
It's just
Yeah.
been our practice,
Yeah.
yeah.
like half of what the,
Half
not,
or less
To
of
not
the
go
budget.
beyond 50%, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's been our practice.
So if we could do 1750 from the general fund and 2,000 from
Yep.
a district fund.
so is there any, I guess my only question, and maybe only because we're getting late in the season before we hit the new budget, is, would you be interested in putting more from your district fund? Considering it's $5,000 sitting in your district fund and only 2,000 being used, that leaves a remainder of 3,000 left in the district fund.
Yeah, and I think we have half the year to go, right? And that's why I'm thinking of this.
Yeah, we have till March, so.
But again, we
We're
only
only-
have $8,500.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it
Yeah.
out there, if you're gonna use up a fund, I'd prefer to see the district fund use up more first than our
Yeah,
operational.
no,
fund.
and I understand, that's why I'm more than willing to put more than half of it in. I just, especially considering District 5 hasn't seen a dollar from any of it thus far, right? I think 1750 is not a big ask out of, what's it, 30?
Yeah.
35.5?
Yeah.
You know, that's a pretty small percentage at this point in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, your point is received by me, and I would support that for sure. That's, I hadn't even thought about the fact that none of that
Well, we
take more
haven't
money.
had any applications.
Wait,
No,
yeah.
yeah, and,
So
and
it's-
fair,
Do we have
however,
a-
however,
yeah.
still the point
Do we
still
have a
remains,
breakdown?
so,
Of
we
what
do.
went to each fund, each district?
I
We do.
Yeah, we do, yeah. So there's been, well, I don't have it on the regional. I'd
not
have to
under the
look back
regional,
at-
no.
I'd have to
Yeah.
look back at that.
What's left in my district? 1,500, right?
You have
1,500?
1,000 in yours. Yeah. Yeah. You have 1,000, Counselor Digdon has 1,000. There's 35, just over 3,500 in yours, Deputy Warden. There's $537 in mine. And 3,000 in, if the 2,000 goes forward from Counselor Sampson this evening, there'd be 3,000 remaining there. And then 6,750 in the regional, if we did the 1,750 this evening.
I guess, would Counselor Sampson be interested in going 2,750 from his district and 1,000 from the,
Not at this point in the year, I don't think, and if it was late in the year, no problem. And I mean, I'm not, if some of that ends up going to another district late in the year, sure. I just wouldn't wanna.
yeah.
I know of a couple other things that may come through, but they may not either, I'm not sure, so.
Fair enough.
Oh, good.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, point well taken, Councillor Sampson, on your District 5 first request this year, right? So,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna stay true to my word of what I said during my campaign. What's good for my district is good for Richmond, and what's good for Richmond is good for all districts, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, we're all in this together, right?
Yeah, and I think too, you know, it would be cool if, you know, once they have kind of a schedule activities, to let Richmond County know, right? And, because that's a
There-
big deal.
Yeah,
right?
there
It's a-
was a mail out recently, but it was
Okay.
more or less to announce what was going on and that there would be further information coming
Okay, great.
as things get.
So, you know, if you could
solidified.
keep us in the
Yeah.
loop on that, it'd be very great.
yeah, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm not supporting
no,
the
absolutely.
church by all
No.
means. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
I'm-
just,
I'm
you're
down there
looking
every
at the
day.
funds. You
I'm
look-
just,
Yeah,
again,
you're looking at the funds, I
I
get
hate
it.
to see
Yeah.
Brent walking out with a big bag of money left in his district fund and all, is begging for it.
Oh, I think he'll share it at the end if he has some left over. I feel pretty
I'm
confident.
hopeful.
All
right.
Warden, are we,
I'm prepared for a motion if someone would like to make it.
So I'd make a motion that we support it to the tune of 3,750 with 2,000 coming out of the District 5 fund and 1,750 coming out of the regional fund.
Okay. Could I have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Oh, okay. Counselor Digdon has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carried, and best of luck to them with their event planning. The next item is from the Rural Communities Foundation of Nova Scotia. Request for a Type 3 grant. It's a sponsorship of $5,000 towards their upcoming conference, which is, I think, in October, which I think I've registered for.
October 8th.
October 8th, yes, I have it in my calendar. So just open for discussion for counselors on that. It's a large sponsorship request for sure. again, 2 on the agenda this evening, but would like to open for comments, so. Anybody have any thoughts they want to share on that? Okay,
It may be a good project, it just appeared that their balance sheet is pretty stable, and it's not occurring in the county either, right? So,
yeah, that's a good point.
You know, and they're talking about a project of 14,500, and they're looking for 5,000 from us, which is
Yeah.
an awful lot as well, so.
Yeah.
I think all of those parts combined for me would be, a no, thank you.
Okay, so would you consider a lesser amount, or would you want to decline?
I think I would decline.
I think I'd be inclined to decline as well.
Okay. Okay.
Do we see that, I mean, I guess I would, you know, you're attending that conference, you know, what does, I guess, anybody know about the conference and sponsorships in the past?
So I don't know, I've never been to it before.
Okay.
So this would be my first time.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm attending is because a local Richmond County woman, I think, is currently chairing the organization, right? So Sherry McLeod, and she's,
Okay.
you know, she's been working with a group of us on trying to find solutions for healthcare providers, for housing for healthcare providers in the county. And so that's why I'm kind of interested in demonstrating, you know, and learning from how they can support us in that endeavor, and learning a little bit more about, you know, the organization itself. So, so that that's why I'd kind of be inclined to have a smaller amount, frankly, from take a zero
Yeah,
off.
I agree.
You
I
know,
would-
Yeah.
but it would, you know, from my perspective, it would need to come from our regional fund, because I don't have any money left.
May take 2 zeros off.
May take 2 zeros off, you know.
Well, we could take 100 out of each of our funds.
Yeah, I wouldn't be willing to do that.
Fair enough.
I know there's gonna be something coming at me again, looking
Yeah.
at, right?
Okay.
At $537, you didn't get a lot left coming in.
Right, I know. But there was,
Cookies and
listen,
candy.
there was
Cookies and
lots
candy's
going
pretty
on
cute.
in District 4. I'm proud of that, so it's a good thing.
So what were you thinking, Madam Warden?
I was thinking maybe 500 from regional, which I know is a lot less than what they are looking for,
But
but
it's something.
it's
Yeah.
something, it would help it demonstrate our support. You know, and I am hopeful that they will be able to provide us with, you know, that we will be able to develop a project where they are the foundation that's assisting us with the development of new housing options for healthcare workers.
Yeah, I was thinking between 5 and 1,000, so I'd be okay with 500, yeah.
Okay.
Like you say, at least we're contributing somewhat, right? So we're showing our support.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that they don't have like sponsorship levels. Like
Levels.
many of these, I'm
Yeah.
quite, the whole thing kind of set me off. I was hoping there was something I didn't understand.
One
You know what I mean? Like yeah.
Yeah, oh, I understand, totally, yeah. So, at this point, I guess, you know, would someone like to make a motion, or would we like to kind of pass on this one, or?
No, I'll make that motion to put $500 from our regional fund towards this ask.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Sean Sampson. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion? Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Okay, next item is correspondence. This is for information purposes only. So it's regarding the approval of the Arishat Sewage System I&I study, the funding under PCAP. So we were awarded 50% of our ask to the tune of $40,000. And of course, that's to get us a step closer to having a better understanding of what needs to be done and next steps to be taken with regards to that system. Councilors have any questions for Troy or Chris on that? Because I can't answer anything.
You think I passed the last one quick? That'll be going over to Chris in a heartbeat.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, well, we'll consider that dealt with. Next item is the review of checks issued for June, July, and August 2022. Any questions regarding those checks? Okay, hearing none. Review of action items from June 13th, 2022 from the Committee of the Whole meeting. Any questions regarding those items? I don't have a question, just a comment that I still have some work to do. Noted. Items added to the agenda. So we had, excuse me, housing with regards to Richmond County lands, including the the West Richmond Education Center. So just, Deputy Warden and I were speaking about this today. I spoke with Troy about it today as well. And so where the issue with the Walter Faugier Schools, sorry, I keep calling it that, but West Richmond Education
me
Center
too.
currently sits is we do have the building assessment on our website. We've all seen it. We referred it to the Planning Advisory Committee for some additional work with those folks to look at, zoning, et cetera. I guess in the context, though, of the larger picture, Deputy Warden and I were kind of thinking maybe it's time that we get a little bit more aggressive on this and look at lands in Richmond County overall, what we have available, is there anything out there that we could be putting together an expression of interest for private developers to, assist with the housing crunch. And just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it this evening, if we would want to provide some, request staff to kind of look into that further. Your thoughts? Councillor Sampson, if you want to start.
There's a list, I think I may have been provided at one time, it's a while back, with vested properties and so on with the county, but a lot of these are of little to no use to us. And, we're possibly losing out on opportunities for them. So if it would be possible for staff to look into, if they've got to go to tender, or how that is for us to, make them available to the public, basically. If we're not using them and have no plans for them, we're only losing tax revenue.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's, I would like to see it, like you say, when, put it out to tender or whatever, but also, when it comes to the housing crunch, and, I would love to put it out there, and hopefully some developers jump on it and see what we can do when it comes to, housing or apartments, affordable apartments or whatever, but, I think I can speak for all of us when I travel to Hawkesbury, I see the ER closed sign on the way to Hawkesbury. And on the way back, I look at the Walter Faugier School, right? And those are two sore spots that, we gotta, that has to be addressed, in my opinion.
Certainly.
Yeah, we spent the money on the building assessment, and, we've talked often about wanting something to happen there, and we can't just wait for something to happen. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right, so, but I do think, the further discussion that we had, as the warden has alluded to today, was, that we need to look at all of our properties. What is the potential? What could they be used for? If what they could be used for could provide some positive social impact on the county, then, what would be the ways that we could affect that change, So I think that there's some work to be done there, and to just give us the information we need to kind of make decisions, to Councillor Sampson's point, are we putting them out to tender, or are we doing something different with them?
Right.
But just to get an idea, get our eyes on, what does it look like? What's the potential in each of those areas? And if we want to do what the potential is, how are we going to get there? Yeah.
Okay.
So I know we're a few steps away from making any deals. The only thing I would do would be to caution us on giving land to somebody that doesn't develop it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
100%.
Again, we've seen that go down,
Yeah.
we've seen previous council go down that
Yeah.
path, and the land is sitting there.
Yeah.
Prime land is
a
sitting
great
there
point.
owned by whoever. Anyway, that would be my only,
Excellent point, yeah.
Do it under development agreement with the timeline.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's make it official.
Yep.
Maybe a motion to ask staff to do a bit of an assessment of our lands and potential next steps,
I'll make that motion.
including the Walter Faugier School. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Could I have a seconder on that?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sean Sampson. Is there any further discussion?
If I may,
Yes.
just for clarity, would we want to have EDPC as part of this conversation
sure.
as well, so that we're looking at the zoning, the possibilities of zoning, mixed use at the same time? So when we're looking at the whole inventory, we have the right people at the table that can help guide us through some of these conversations, so we don't miss any of those opportunities as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
or you
And-
bring all the parcels of land together and then include DDPC.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Do your
Yeah,
search
because
first,
he's
I
gonna
guess,
do a
to-
lot of the work for us.
Yeah.
I already asked him
Yeah.
about this one back in early August, so,
Okay, great.
perfect.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Now, we're on the last page of the agenda. All right, 15-minute question period. So our gallery is thinned significantly, but I'll leave it a couple of minutes for the phone. So the number to call is 902-226-9885. It's 902-226-9885. So we'll just give that a minute.
Marathon.
Initiation by fire.
Marathon.
You ran a marathon yesterday, and this is a marathon, or half, whatever.
That's why I'm making sure lots of
He's hydrating.
Okay. I recognize there's a little bit of a delay with the live stream, so I just want to give it a little bit of time to make sure there's no questions, but.
Excuse me, do we have to call in to ask a question?
No, certainly not. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
come right up to
questions
the
from the
chair.
gallery as well.
Okay.
Please, but I'll just ask you to come up to the desk where there's a microphone and introduce yourself and, yeah, if that's okay? Yeah, no, you're good.
Excellent. My name is Blake Priddle. I'm with 101.5 The Hawk. I'm just going to ask a few questions just to clarify a few things.
Well, actually, Blake, I could do a media interview with you later if that's easier.
Oh, yes, that would be a lot easier.
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect.
Awesome. I'll do that.
Will you do that
Like just give me
before
two.
you go into camera, or?
Yeah, well, we actually don't have any items for in camera, so we'll be wrapping up
Well, that's way better.
kind of right now. Okay.
You're telling me.
Thank you, Blake.
Even gooder.
Even gooder, right on. Okay, so I think we're gonna call it on question period. The phone hasn't rang, and yes, there being no further business, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to Lil and to the folks watching at home as well.